members of the National Assembly will debate the presidential address and the following reports submitted by Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta. Number one, the annual report on the measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of national values and principles of governance. The annual report on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic of Kenya. The annual report to Parliament on the state of national security. The report on ease of doing business milestones 2014 to 2020. And finally, the annual report of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions for the financial years 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2019-2020. Also before the House is the approval of nominees to 8 constituency national government CDF committees in accordance with the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act of 2015 and the National Government Constituencies Development Fund Regulations 2016. Also, the report of the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing on its inquiry into the use of the standard gauge railway will be debated this afternoon by the members of the National Assembly. The report of the Departmental Committee on Sports, Culture and Tourism on the inquiry into the status of stadia in Kenya is also lined up for debate this afternoon. The report of the Departmental Committee on Health on its inquiry into the utilization of the funds appropriated to the Ministry of Health in the financial year 2019-2020 for the COVID-19 pandemic, with focus on the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA. That debate is also expected to take center stage in the National Assembly. This is according to the order of business this afternoon. And the report of the Committee on Implementation on its consideration of the public petition on reconsideration of a resolution of the House on the report on the crisis facing the sugar industry in Kenya. Those are the highlights of the business to expect in the National Assembly this afternoon. Of course, a number of members of the National Assembly will also be asking various questions to different departments of government. And among those members of Parliament who will have that opportunity of asking various questions to various cabinet secretaries this afternoon include the member for Lamu West constituency, Honorable Stanley Mudhama, who will ask the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, what measures has the ministry put in place to assist farmers in Lamu West constituency access markets for their produce, particularly the newly introduced hybrid seed cotton BT variety, considering that cotton ginners are hesitant to buy the recently developed hybrid cotton variety. What action is the ministry taking to promote cotton production in Lamu West constituency, which produces over 80% of all the cotton in the coastal region? What measures has the ministry put in place to address the numerous challenges facing cotton production in Lamu West constituency? The question by the Honourable Member for Lamu West will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock. If you're just joining us, there is a clear indication that any moment now, yes, on the screen there is activity. The Speaker of the National Assembly, Honourable Justin Muturi, is walking into the chamber. He will be leading the debate this afternoon. This broadcast of the National Assembly proceedings is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit, PBU, whose logo appears on the top left corner of your screen, and it is in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Edward Kabasa. Enjoy your viewing.
Let us pray. Almighty God, who in wisdom and goodness have appointed the office of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests were committed to our charge. Amen.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Honourable members, and pursuant to standing order number 225, subsection 2, paragraph B, I wish to report to the House that I've received a petition from the leadership of the county government of Uasin Gishu regarding non-allocation of health services conditional grant to the county government of Uasin Gishu. The petition, which is co-signed by, among others, the governor of Uasin Gishu County, His Excellency Jackson K. Arab Madago, and his deputy, holds that the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital has never received a conditional grant, which is provided for under Article 202, Clause 2 of the Constitution. The petitioners aver that the elevation of the said hospital from level 5 to level 6 is the root cause of this funding stalemate that continues to deny county residents access to emergency, outpatient, and inpatient services. Further, honourable members, the petitioners assert that the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital perennially struggles with underfunding, neglect, and budget cuts, and is said to miss out on Kenya shillings 4.3 billion earmarked for level 5 hospitals under the Health Services Conditional Grant as contained in the Division of Revenue Act 2020. The petitioners are additionally convinced that the criteria used by the Ministry of Health to determine level 5 hospital status, such as availability of facilities and bed capacity, is improper since it ignores other critical factors, including hospital patients' attendance rates. It is on this premise, honourable members, that the petitioners seek the intervention of this august House in securing health services conditional grants for Uasin Gishu County and in undertaking other investigative, legislative, and budgeting interventions to safeguard the health standards of the people of Uasin Gishu County through the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital and other health facilities within the county. Honourable members, pursuant to the provision standing under 227, subsection 1, the petition therefore stands committed to the Departmental Committee on Health. The committee is requested to consider the petition and report its findings to the House and to the petitioners in accordance with standing under 227, subsection 2. I thank you. The petition by the member for Muhoroni.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, with your indulgence, I wish to place before this House a petition regarding the plight of employees and union officials of Kenya Union of Agriculture or Sugar Plantation and Allied Workers Union, KUSPAU, based in my constituency. The petition reads as follows. I understand on behalf of employees of Union of Officials of Kenya Sugar Plantation and Allied Workers Union, draw the attention of the House to the following. That the Constitution of Kenya repossesses all sovereign authority to the people of Kenya. That the Kibos Sugar and Allied Industries Limited, which commenced its operations in 2007, has grown tremendously and as evidenced by many subsidiary companies that have emerged because of its existence, namely Kibos Sugar Limited, Kibos Refinery Limited, Kibos Distillery Limited, and Kibos Papers and Packaging Limited. Despite this marked growth, the management of the company and that of its subsidiaries have for a very long time entrenched unfair labor practices against its employees, who are the core elements of production, without which the company would collapse. 3, that the employees at Kibos and Allied Workers have been facing numerous challenges with regards to unfair labor practices, ranging from intimidation, harassment, victimization, and unlawful dismissal, among others. That early this year, the management unlawfully and procedurally suspended 6 union officials from service on malicious and baseless allegations, and further disregarded court order granting temporary orders of stay and conservatory, lifting the dismissal or suspension. That further, the management went ahead and to stop union dues, deductions and remittances to the affected officials, to both the branch and national officials, as at 31st January 2020. That the union moved to court to challenge the action of the management and were granted orders mandating the management to reinstate to reinstate the workers the said remittances and dues to the union in respect of the said members, an action which the management has defied to date. That the management's main objective is to revoke the recognition agreement between the parties, yet the agreement is an umbrella that protects the rights of the said employees against unfair labor practices and working conditions. That to date, the management of Kibos Sugar and Allied Industries have maintained that there is no union in all its subsidiary companies, despite the existence of a recognition agreement between the said parties. That most of the casual employees are employed by cartels in the name of outsourced contractors, yet they work in the mainstream factory, hence denying the existing employees their right to join the union and inclusion in the current collective bargaining agreement. That the management has been violating the law relating to employment of foreign employees, Asian origin bracket, because most of them do not have work permits, hence denying local employment opportunities. That the engagement of foreigners has further escalated racial discrimination between Africans and Asians doing the same job, as foreigners are highly paid, while Africans at the same job scales are poorly paid and exploited. That efforts made by petitioners to have the management address the plight of employees have not been successful. That matters raised in this petition are not pending before any court of law. I therefore humbly pray that the National Assembly, through the Departmental Committee of Labor and Social Welfare, 1, recommends that the management of Kibos Sugar and Allied Industries unreservedly grants to all employees, including union officials, the inalienable rights to form, join, or participate in activities and programs of a trade union as enshrined in the Article 41 of the Constitution. 2, causes the company to honor and implement the collective bargaining agreement, CBA, of 2017 for all employees without any discrimination whatsoever, including payment of salary arrears of the affected employees from February 2020. 3, recommends that the management revokes unfair termination of employment of 6 labor officials and reinstate them to service. 4, inquiries into the circumstances under which employees of Asian origin who do not have authentic work permits have been procedurally outsourced to perform non-existent work that would ordinarily be performed by locals and recommends annulment of their engagement. And lastly, makes any other appropriate recommendation it deems fit in addressing the circumstances raised in this petition. Before I rest my case, Mr. Speaker, I want to plead that this is between a rock and a hard place. The employer is in my constituency, the employees are my voters. And I'm a member of the Labor and Social Welfare Committee, and I'm dealing with a giant that many cases have been brought to this house, and there's been a lot of monkey games. So I would wish that you spell some direction that would make the workers who are my voters find some remedy. I would suggest, if you allow me, I would ask my fellow colleague in the Labour Committee, nominee 001, to support, because he has gone through the second, because he has gone through the similar experience before. No, he has something to add.
Second what?
No, he has something to comment, having gone through the same experience.
Don't worry, it is not your business. That one is not your business.
Okay.
You have done your best under Article 119 and the standing orders, so the rest you leave. There's only 30 minutes which is allocated for comments, not secondment. Comments, minor comments, clarifications, and such like. So please, Honorable Koyo, now you say you are between, you are operating between a giant?
Between a giant, sir.
A rock and a hard place. And then you say that there are monkey tricks, monkey games which have been played. Now there will be they will not even allow even chimpanzees games to be played, eh? Honorable Chanda, you want to comment on that?
A short comment, Honorable Speaker, on petition 1. That is on the issue of Moi Referral and Teaching Hospital. I think as we stand now, Mr. Speaker, the facility services the entire western region, the entire, all the way from Migori through to Turkana. And if it is that they have not been getting any conditional grant for over the period of time that has been indicated, I think, Mr. Speaker, this is very serious. And really the House really must act on this in a very serious manner, such that that facility gets the kind of resources that is required. It's serving a big area. It's serving a big area in terms of the patient intake in the facility. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Sankok.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I want to comment on the petition that was raised by Honorable Koyo. Honorable Speaker, I also raised a question on the same Kibos Sugar Factory and allied industries on the issue of Kibos School for the Blind, which is inside, and it was formed 70 years before the industry moved there. But it wants now to relocate the school. It has been molesting those children. It has been sending its influence to the school compound, Honorable Speaker. So I want that question to be tied up with, because I have not yet been answered, tied with the petition from Honorable Koyo. Lastly, when you hear Honorable Mandago crying, I know Honorable Mandago is a very serious governor. There must be a problem, and this House must address and answer his plight. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Pukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to support the petition by the Honorable Governor for Mandago, His Excellency, for Uasin Gishu, His Excellency Mandago. Honorable Speaker, the issue of the conditional grant to the various hospitals is a very important thing. And when you look at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, it has been acting both as a district hospital and also as a referral hospital. And I think it is the ministry missed out in terms of program so that Uasin Gishu. And I think it will be important that the budget committee looks into this matter seriously so that they can be compensated and get the money they have not been getting for the last almost 10 years, for which they should be, they actually qualify. At one stage, I think there was an issue of transferring the referral hospital to another site, but that did not happen, and therefore, I think this is a very valid petition. On the issue raised by Honorable Koyo, I think the committee Honorable Speaker, will need to look at issues of foreigners working and the conditions they are working under, so that it's no different from those who are the residents of this country. The citizens of this country deserves the best, and we should not be overlooked by foreigners. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Sosian.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to thank Honorable Koyo for bringing a very sensitive matter that touches on the Bill of Rights for workers. Honorable Speaker, Article 41 of the Constitution does not exist in vain. The Constitution was given to the people of Kenya, and particularly to workers, so that they can freely enjoy the provisions. It's saddening to note a trend that is rising, that is very fast growing, both in the public and private sector employers, in terms of limiting the rights, constitutional rights of workers. Honorable Speaker, other than Kiboswa Sugar Company, we have seen Western Sugar Company also suspending a CBA that is duly signed and certificated and in court. We've also seen the Teacher Service Commission suspending a CBA that is duly signed and deposited in court. These are not good trends, with all due honesty, particularly when we have a progressive constitution that protects workers. This one of Kibos, cancelling of CBA, denying unions union dues, I think that constitutes what we call, in terms of labor, busting of unions. And this House, Honorable Speaker, has a duty to give direction in protecting the institutions and even the provisions of the Constitution. So, Honorable Speaker, this House probably needs to go further and audit employers and ensure that there's due diligence and workers enjoy their constitutional rights, so that we don't face industrial actions. We have seen doctors threatening to go on strike over specific issues.
Now you can't be from teachers, from kibos, from now doctors. The next thing you'll be about some people who work later in the night.
Yes, so Honorable Speaker, these are just general facts. It's a reflection of something wrong that needs to be fixed. So this petition gives us the way of dealing with all this. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Lagwaluch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to comment on this petition by Honorable Koyo on behalf of the people, the workers of Kibos Sugar and other industries. Mr. Speaker, I come from the same county, and I know this is one of the companies that create wealth and employment. But this particular company, Mr. Speaker, without casting aspersions members of this House, every time complaints are made against this company, members treat it with kid gloves. And I think that's why Honorable Koyo was referring to monkey business and being between a hard stone and something else. Mr. Speaker, this particular company needs to be investigated properly. During the times of such big and strong union leaders like Onyango Medika and the late Ochieo, who are leading workers of sugar industries, this would not be happening in Kenya. And I kindly ask the relevant committee of the House to look into this matter very carefully, and if this needs to take action, that action should be taken without any apologies. We are dealing with a giant, and a giant that tries to trample big and poor people. It shouldn't happen in Kenya anymore. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Manzo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to comment on Honorable Koyo's petition. Mr. Speaker, there are many other situations in the country where you have international companies working here or doing a project here, and you find that the plight of the local is overtaken by a lot of foreigners who first come to Kenya with the proper papers, or begin with the proper papers, but the moment they expire, they continue living in the country and working here without proper work permits. So I would really be urging the committee also, to deal with the relevant department, so that there is an overall audit, so that the locals can get their rightful jobs, which a lot of times they'll be attended to by people who ordinarily the locals would have learned from, and then once they learn from, then these foreigners go back to their country. And thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Honorable Mbandi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, also commenting on this petition by Honorable Onyango Koyo, I just want to say the following. One, it is true that the way the investors in this country, especially in the sugar industry, treat their employees, especially the local employees, is wanting, and this needs to be looked into. But I think the problem in the sugar industry is of grave concern, Mr. Speaker, and more particularly when now we want to lease out these farms. We have seen the way these investors handle and treat not only the employees, but even the sugar cane farmers. Mr. Speaker, you will find that these investors, even the one who has invested in Sukari Industries in Homa Bay County, Mr. Speaker, they are not cutting even the canes, yet they are bringing canes from elsewhere and crushing right there. They are importing sugar and selling, so the place is just being used as a store. It's not even helping the local farmers, yet the industry was set up to help the local farmers, to improve the local economy. Mr. Speaker, I think beyond now the committee where this matter is directed, because this is a labor issue, I would request that the Agriculture Committee looks at how these investors who have invested in the sugar sector are not only treating the employees, but also treating the farmers. And you know, growing sugarcane takes about 2 years, Mr. Speaker. Now you grow, you plant your crop, you wait for 2 years, then later you discover that your cane is not going to be harvested. Mr. Speaker, it is so frustrating, and it is killing the local economy of this region. So the Agriculture Committee needs to look at this issue of the sugar sector in totality as we go towards the recent reforms that the Cabinet Secretary has already put in place. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I think also the Council of Governors and the Senate, they need to discuss and involve the stakeholders. Some of the decisions they take hurt the very farmers who are supposed to benefit. Farmers are complaining that they are in agreement with the CS, yet Council of Governors from nowhere are opposing the very reforms that the sugarcane farmers are supporting. Mr. Speaker, sometimes leaders speak for themselves instead of speaking for the electorate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Mele.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support what Honorable Koyo has, the petition by Honorable Koyo. Honorable Speaker, I come from the same region, and the kind of workers and the kind of treatment the Kibos Sugar and Allied Industries are making to our people, especially from my constituency, Tinderet and Moroni, is very appalling. That the workers can't be allowed to form unions, they can be summarily dismissed. A number of them are supposed to tow what we call the cartel, who have been given the right to employ and to recruit and dismiss at will. Honorable Speaker, you realize that Kibos and Allied Industries has done a lot of evil things, even to the school, Kibos School for the Blind. When I was a chair of Education Committee, I visited there. And you realize the deplorable state the children of Kibos School of the Blind are in. In fact, Honorable Speaker, all the workers within, those who work within the industry, they are supposed to ensure that even the few Asians, the Asians who work there, even their skills and even understanding of the factory operations are wanting, but they get better pay than the locals. And in fact, what Honorable Member has just said, the giant, is actually a serious problem. When their issues are tabled in this house, they don't see the light of the day. I've seen a number of them, and I think we have the issue of the Kibos School for the Deaf, which they have gone to court. The Ministry of Environment has just taken us around, and there's nothing which has gone through. And two, we have even had more issues, even issues of land in Miwani, where they have tried to acquire land, public land, through the back door. That is quite bad, Honorable Speaker. So I think it is time for this House to assert itself and make sure that our people whom we represent are heard. We don't represent the rich, and we don't represent those who are powerful. We represent the locals, the people whose rights have been trampled upon by these giant and big companies. I beg to support, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Amalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I come from North Rift, and the petition that was raised by His Excellency the Governor of Uasin Gishu pertaining the Moi Teaching Referral Hospital is a serious matter, Mr. Speaker. I looked around and I can't see the chair of the Committee of Health, neither the deputy. And if I told Mr. Speaker, this hospital has been going on without the condition of granting, we request that they try as much as possible to prioritize. Because, Mr. Speaker, Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital covers the entire North Rift. It goes even to the former Western Province, up to Nyanza Province, Mr. Speaker. And you go there, you can see that the hospital has actually overstretched. So they really need this money like never before, Mr. Speaker, to assure the people from that region of the quality health care. So the committee chair, wherever he is, and the deputy, Mr. Speaker, they need to move with speed, and if possible, to visit that hospital so they can be able to ascertain on the need basis, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, we support, Mr. Speaker, and I thank you.
Funyula.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. Mostly, Honorable Speaker, I stand to support the petition by the Governor of Uasin Gishu. Indeed, MTRH, as we know it down there, is the only referral hospital, probably covering the entire former Western Province, covering the entire Nyanza, and most of the Rift Valley. To this date, if it has not received conditional grant, it is indeed an indictment on the national government, and as a people, we must move with speed to remedy this problem. As of even today, Honorable Speaker, I've had to transport 2 patients from my constituency to go get admitted, because all the other hospitals along the line are just a mere shell of hospitals that are not even worthy the level they are supposed to be. I support the petition, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Nyamai.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to comment on the petition by His Excellency the Governor for Uasin Gishu. Mr. Speaker, conditional grants are very useful for such huge hospitals because they are able to deal with specific projects that target the whole country. But the reason as to why I stand here, Mr. Speaker, is because this hospital has taken care of a patient from my constituency, and I had not solicited for this. He stayed in the hospital, he was taken care for months, and the bill went up to 1.8 million Kenya shillings. They took care of him for months until he passed on. And Honorable Speaker, this family was not able to pay. They still released the body for burial. So, Mr. Speaker, this hospital does not benefit only the people from the North Rift. It benefits people from as far as Kitui South. And I would like to thank him as I support this petition for taking care of Mr. Washington Kilonzo from Kanziko Ward and accepting to release his body for burial because his family could not pay. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Sorry, honorable members, you know, with me, it's only the period allocated for comments is 30 minutes, and it's over. So the petitions are referred to the respective committees, namely Health and Labor and Social Welfare. Move to the next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Leader of the majority.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House. Today, Tuesday, November 24th, 2020. Number 1, the reports of the Auditor General on the financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the financial year ended 30th of June 2019 and their certificates therein. Number 1, the State Department for Irrigation, the State Department for Gender, the State Department for Public Service, the State Department for Culture and Heritage, the Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture Project, which is IDA credit number 5945KE, and lastly, the technical assistance to enhance the capacity of the President's delivery unit, which is ADB grant number 5500 155012902. Second is the reports of the Auditor General on the revenue statements in respect to the following institutions for the year ended 30th of June 2019. The State Department for Interior and the State Department for Mining. And lastly, the audit reports on the Office of the Auditor General for the financial year 2014-2015 and 2015-2016 by Mrs. PKF Kenya. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Well, and I think it's important, the Honorable Wandai in the House. For a long time, we have grappled with the issue of who to audit the Auditor General, the Office of the Auditor General. And I think this is good progress, that at least now we have got the audit and accounts for those financial years indicated. The Chairperson, Select Committee on Delegated Legislation, Honorable Kamket.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, November 24, 2020. Reports of the Select Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of, number one, the Public Finance Management Parliamentary Car Members Scheme Fund Amendment Regulations 2020. Two, the Public Finance Management Parliamentary Mortgage Members Scheme Fund Amendment Regulations 2020. Number three, the Public Finance Management Parliamentary Car Loan Staff Scheme Fund Amendment Regulations 2020. And finally, the Public Finance Management Parliamentary Mortgage Staff Scheme Fund Amendment Regulations 2020.
Very well. The Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Lands, Honorable Nyamai.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, November 24th, 2020. Report of the Departmental Committee on Lands on its consideration of a petition by residents of Hospital Ward in Mathare constituency regarding imminent eviction of residents of Hospital Ward by the Kenya Police Service. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Honorable Kamket.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to give notice of the following motions. That this House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Public Finance Management Parliamentary Mortgage Staff Scheme Fund Amendment Regulations 2020, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, November 24, 2020, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 24(2)(a) of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, approves the Public Finance Management Parliamentary Mortgage Staff Scheme Fund Amendment Regulations 2020, published as legal notice number 187 of 2020. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, I beg to give the following notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Public Finance Management Car Loan Staff Scheme Fund Amendment Regulations 2020, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, November 24, 2020, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 24(2)(a) of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, approves the Public Finance Management Parliamentary Car Loan Staff Scheme Fund Amendment Regulations 2020, published as legal notice number 186 of 2020. Number 3, Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to give notice of the following motion. That this House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Public Finance Management Parliamentary Mortgage Members Scheme Fund Amendment Regulations 2020 laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, November 24, 2020, and pursuant to provisions of Section 24(2)(a) of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, approves the Public Finance Management Parliamentary Mortgage Members Scheme Fund Amendment Regulations 2020, published as legal notice number 185 of 2020. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Public Finance Management Parliamentary Car Loan Members Scheme Fund Amendment Regulations 2020, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, November 24, 2020, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 24(2)(a) of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, approves the Public Finance Management Parliamentary Car Loan Members Scheme Fund Amendment Regulations 2020, published as legal notice number 184 of 2020. I beg to give notice.
Next.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Member for Lam West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask a question number 312/2020 to the Cabinet Secretary of Agriculture and Livestock and Fisheries. Question 1. What measures has the ministry put in place to assist farmers in Lam West constituency access market for their produce, particularly new introduced hybrid seed cotton, that is BT variety, considering that cotton genus are hesitant to buy the recently developed hybrid cotton variety? 2. What action is the ministry taking in place to address the numerous challenges that farmers are facing currently in Lam West constituency? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question will be replied before the Committee on Agriculture and Livestock. Next question by the member for Mwingi Central.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask a question number 327 of 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for Water, Irrigation and Sanitation. 1. What measures are the ministry taking to ensure construction and development of dams, boreholes and water pumps in Mwingi Central constituency? 2. Could the Cabinet Secretary submit a list of dams, boreholes, and water pumps and piped water supply lines constructed or developed in Mwingi Central, Mwingi West, and Mwingi North sub-counties for the year 2017-2018 to date? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
To be replied before the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. Next question by the member for Baringo Central.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question number 335 of 2020. And the question is directed to the CEO Teacher Service Commission. 1. What is the criteria applied by the Teacher Service Commission in the promotion of teachers in the country? 2. What is the status of promotion of teachers in Baringo Central constituency? And could the Commission justify why some teachers, particularly deputy principals, have served for many years in the same grade without promotion? 3. What measures has the Commission put in place to ensure fair and equitable distribution of promotion opportunities for teachers across the country? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Question is for written reply by the Teacher Service Commission. Next question by the member for Subukia. Honorable Gashobe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'd like to ask question 341, 2020 to the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Planning. 1. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain the delay in payment of pension for one Chegemwai of ID number 092-687-63, a 70 years old former civil engineering employee of the Kenya Railways Corporation, personal number 136148H, who retired in the year 2003. 2. When will the said former public officer receive his pension? Thank you, Speaker, sir.
Question to be replied before the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. Last question by the member for Funyula.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question number 343 of 2020, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development and Public Works. 1. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain why the procurement process for a contractor for the Matayos, Ganjala, Nahasiko, Nangina C830 road that traverses Matayos and Funyula constituencies, which was included among the 10,000 roads program, and that the low volume sealed roads stalled? Number 2, when is the procurement process expected to be completed so as to have the road improved to bitumen standards? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Question to be replied before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. Honourable members, this is a short communication. As you will be aware, or perhaps remember, this House amended the Traffic Act, consequently providing for migration from the current paper driving licenses to digital or smart driving licenses. By coming to force of the Act and the regulations made thereunder, all drivers are required to migrate from the old driving licenses to digital or smart driving ones. To this end, therefore, the Parliamentary Service Commission has engaged the National Transport and Safety Authority to facilitate members of Parliament and parliamentary staff who have not yet migrated to the driving license, to the smart driving licenses from within the precincts of Parliament. In this regard, therefore, I wish to notify the House and all members and staff that the NTSA officers will be available to assist members and staff of the Parliamentary Service Commission to create accounts and migrate to digital licenses from today, Tuesday 24th, to Friday 27th, November 2020, in the lounge next to the National Assembly main chamber. I thank you, members. How can the member for Kikuyu ask for a refresher course? And I thought he is extremely digital. No, for driving. It's just to migrate. The next segment is a request for by the member for Kisumu West, Honorable Olagwaluoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a request for a statement regarding disbursement of tuition and general purpose funds to primary schools. To certainly interest Honorable Sosion and Honorable Mboko Melemba, both of whom I see here. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 42, sub 2, sub C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on Education and Research on the inadequate and irregular disbursements of tuition and general purpose funds to primary schools by the Ministry of Education. Honorable Speaker, it is of great concern that the Ministry failed to disburse 20% of funding earmarked for tuition SIMBA accounts in 2018, yet schools had already placed orders for learning materials. Further, the Ministry failed to disburse the 30% of the same in 2019 despite suppliers demanding their due payments. And again, the ministry failed to disburse 30% of tuition funds and 30% of general purposes account funds in 2020, thereby making it impossible for the schools to pay routine expense such as security guards, wages, post office and box charges, telephone and postage charges, among others. Honorable Speaker, the ministry is yet to avail funds for pedal-operated waste collection liners, toilet disinfections, basic PPEs, thermal guns, running water, soap and sanitizers, and sick bays for isolation in case of COVID-19 cases, and has additionally failed to release funds for payment of boards of management teachers' salaries and funding for accessing essential materials, thereby making it impossible for primary schools to conduct meaningful assessment tests as required. Mr. Speaker, these funding challenges have jeopardized the continued sustainability of free primary education in the country, as exemplified by the fact that most deputy head teachers are unwilling to apply for promotion to head teachers since the position is extremely stressful. It is against this background, Mr. Speaker, that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education on the following. One, how does the ministry expect schools to run seamlessly in the face of inadequate and irregular funding of SIMBA tuition accounts and general purposes accounts? Two, why is the ministry exposing teachers, learners, and staff to COVID-19 pandemic by failing to disburse funds for mitigating COVID-19, which has also placed undue pressure on parents who are being compelled to fund COVID-19 mitigation measures? Lastly, what is the ministry doing to sustain free primary education in the country in view of the funding disparities of primary schools compared to secondary schools, and to further motivate teachers to apply for head teacher positions? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair, Education Committee. Honorable Florence Mutua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a response, Mr. Speaker, for Honorable Aramat Lemanken MP, Narok East Constituency. In regards to a question about transfer of a school head teacher, the response is from...
Sorry, this is a request for a statement from you, from the Honorable Olagwa Luch.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was my time for the question.
So...
The statement, we will try and do what we can, Mr. Speaker. Before
you try to give a statement by...
Before we go for recess?
Before we go for the Christmas holidays.
Christmas holidays.
Very well. Honorable Luch.
Mr. Speaker, I hear the chairperson of Education Committee, Honorable Mutua, clearly, but I wish she could make it clear that she intends to give this answer next week, because hopefully the House may go on recess next week. So there isn't much time really, and the matter is really urgent.
Honorable Mutua.
I did say before recess.
Very well.
Thank you.
Member for Dagoretti South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I stand to request for a statement regarding our country's public debt management. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning regarding the status of the public debt management. Honorable Speaker, Section 33 of the Public Finance Management Act of 2012 stipulates that the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury submits to Parliament a statement setting out the debt management strategy of the national government over the medium term with respects to its actual liability and potential liability in respect of the loans and guarantees and its plans for dealing with those liabilities. Further, that section 62(3) of the Public Finance Management Act of 2012 specifies public debt management strategy as to minimize the cost of public debt management and borrowing over the long term, taking into account the risk, promote the development of the market institutions for government debt securities, and ensure the sharing of the benefits and costs of public debt between the current and future generations. However, the reports, Mr. Speaker, most of which I am in possession of even here, on public debt management, which have been submitted to has been submitted by the National Treasury, give insufficient data. Honorable Speaker, in the recent years, the level of public borrowing by the government of Kenya has escalated and is now already unsustainable. It is projected that Kenya will reach the 9 trillion Kenya shilling public debt ceiling within the next 2 years due to the anticipated revenue shortfall in the current fiscal year and the uncontrolled expenditure. Honorable Speaker, it is on this account that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning on the following. 1. What is the actual status of all the public debt contracts between the government of the Republic of Kenya and the international lenders? 2. What is the percentage of all the loans granted to the government of Kenya by the People's Republic of China, and in particular, the Exim Bank of China and the China Development Bank? 3. What are the plans in place to enter into public debt contract with the Trade Development Bank, the TDB, for any other syndicated loans that the government of Kenya may be possessing currently? Number 4, what plans are in place in regard to debt restructuring and the debt deferral in light of prevailing economic hardships? Number 5, what is the current public debt management strategy? And 6, what are the consequences of the government of Kenya defaulting on these loans repayment? I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I signed these on Monday, 23rd November 2020. Thank you very much.
The Chair for Finance, Honorable Wanga, I think I saw her here, I think she finished today's sitting, I think. What do you mean? Are you a vice chair? Are you a vice chair? You? But let's first of all, is there a chair? Is there a vice chair? No, the matter will be there. The question will be presented to the committee through the leader of majority. Well, since the questioner, the person seeking the statement wants it to be from the Finance Committee. Well, you know, members keep learning new things. And the Honorable Kiari is also in the process of learning. No, it's not, there is nothing to explain. The question will be taken to the committee where it is directed. Let the committee make what it is. Member for Chepalungu, Gideon Kosgei.
Thank you, Speaker. Personal statement on the derogatory attack on my person by Honorable Badi Ngongo on the floor of the House on 19 November 2020, morning sitting. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 84, I wish to make a personal statement regarding the derogatory attack on my person by Honorable John Mbadi Ngongo, MP and leader of Minority Party, on the floor of the House on 19th November 2020 morning sitting. Honorable Speaker, I rise not to defend my academic qualifications that the Honorable Minority Leader John Mbadi Ngongo cast aspersions upon when he termed me illiterate, or to explain why the people of Chebalungu constituency choose me to represent them in this House. Honorable Speaker, I rise today to defend the integrity, honor, and place of this august House. Honorable Speaker, I had a chance to visit the Parliament presence while in Standard 8 in Kabisimba Primary School in the year 1998. While on a school tour as a kid, I was awed by the magnificence of the Parliament building, the civility of the staff members, and friendliness of the MPs we came across. Our MP then was Honorable Isaac Ruto, who is now my party leader, was gracious enough to receive us, buy us tea in the canteen, and take a picture with us. We also sat in the visitors' gallery to avoid the proceedings. The debate was rather complicated, but what was not lost on us was the decorum with which it was conducted. The impression was profound. I thought I should sit to debate too someday, and here I am, Honorable Speaker. The tradition of school kids visiting Parliament continues to this day. I make sure to be present when schools from my constituency visit this Parliament, because I know the impression the visit makes on the children is long-lasting. Nowadays, some watch the proceeding live on TV. Honorable Speaker, the next generation of leaders are watching this debate at home or in the visitors' gallery. How we carry ourselves in this House goes way beyond the need to demean a fellow member here and get an applause or silence them for the day. It influences the nation's political culture and the ethos of tolerance and respect as Kenyans from different backgrounds interact out there. Honorable Speaker, if we reduce this House to a theater of name-calling and insults, the same will be replicated out there. It is quite unfortunate that the Honorable John Mbadi was extolling the virtues of the Building Bridges Initiative, BPI, as a necessary path to peace and cohesion in this country, only to stop midway to call me an illiterate from somewhere he doesn't even know. We cannot bridge the divide between Kenyans if we don't have a bridge connecting us as members of the same Parliament. I'm a member of Parliament representing Chebalungu constituency, and I happen to belong to the same NASA coalition as Honorable Mbadi. For some reasons, Honorable Mbadi seems to have forgotten that CCM, the party that sponsored me to Parliament, belongs to the same coalition as Mbadi's ODM party. If Mbadi does not recognize the bridge between our parties, then building bridges between whole communities is indeed a daunting one. My point of order that day was a very constructive one, had Mbadi let me finish. Our country has experienced election-related violence since the advent of the multi-party democracy in 1992. It took the handshake between Kibaki and Raila in 2008 on the steps of Harambee House to stop this country from descending into a full-blown civil war. This House was instrumental in enacting laws that made the Grand Coalition government possible. Then years later, in 2018, Honorable Raila and President Uhuru Kenyatta did another handshake on the step of Harambee House after demonstration rocked this country following yet another election dispute. PPI is the fruit of that handshake. This House again is a key cog in the process towards its full realization. Honorable Speaker, this House is called the August House for a reason. As a reminder, August means respectable, distinguished, exalted, hallowed, and venerable. It is almost like a place of worship because the deliberations we make here impacts the lives of the people in very significant ways, both current and future generation. Our words and deeds should live to the expectations. Honorable Speaker, to correct the impression created out there by that unfortunate slap by Honorable Mbadi, that this House may be populated by people with dubious academic credential, it is worth noting that Mbadi and I share an alma mater in the University of Nairobi, where we both studied Bachelor of Commerce. Honorable Babu Owino and I met in some classes, while Honorable Naomi Shaban and I were contemporaries in Kenyatta University, where I studied my master's in the field of commerce. It is rather a very interesting coincidence that Mbadi and I studied the same first and second degree. Is an elite, same first and second degrees. Is as illiterate or as educated as I am. The choice is his to make. I hope PPI will not dictate that we give out our academic certificates for perusal before making a point of order in the future. I therefore seek for the Speaker to compel Honorable Mbadi to retract and apologize to me and to the people of Chebalungu constituency. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And if allowed, I'm also here to table my certificates for perusal.
Well. Honourable members, honourable members, the member claimed to rise under standing order number 84, and there will be no discussion. But to the extent that he has made a request that the Honourable Mbadi makes a choice, or do you want him to? You are saying the Honourable. It is not for me because I wasn't on the chair. Unless the Honourable Mbadi feels compelled to apologize, I cannot compel him to.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know that it is not usual to allow members to make any remarks on a person. Now, Mr. Speaker, actually I must confirm and confess here that I, on a point of order, purporting and understand the contribution of another member. In my view and in my estimation, Mr. Speaker, he failed the test of a member who can attentively listen to other members when they make contribution and be able to interpret what is being discussed. And so, he has the papers, but I just want to plead with him that he needs to be listening when we are making contributions in this House. And mentioning the name of someone who is not here to defend himself and trying to portray Mbadi as having said something that I didn't say. I cannot be irresponsible to imply. And if you look at the stories, the way that story was captured, not Hansard, if you look at the news that came out of it, is that Mbadi said that without Raila, no peace. And he's the one who said it. I never mentioned Raila's name. So that is why I'm saying your literacy should lead you to a point where you first of all think through issues before you raise them. And that is what actually made me uncomfortable, Mr. Speaker. But if his constituents misinterpreted this to mean he didn't go to school, I've also since carried out some background search. And I found out that he was in Lower Kabete 2 years after I left. I mean, he was in class 8 2 years after I left Lower Kabete. But then he finally found himself in Lower Kabete. And I just want to imagine that he got the same kind of training that I went through, and so he's literate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You see, Honorable Koski, you see the problem is when you, at the close of your statement, you're the one who requested that the Honorable Bandi say something. Ordinarily, this is not the way it is done. But you made the request. So it's only fair that I had to allow the Honorable Bandi to make his rebuttal. There's no need. I think the people of Chepalungu are now happier. And I'm sure, well, it's a good thing that you came here when you were in class 8 in 1998. So you must have found us debating very well, and that must have encouraged you. I'm sure the Honorable Amunyinyi must have impressed you. You must have been impressed by the Honorable Amunyinyi's way of debating. So you see, it is good. It's a good thing that you have also said, you have put it on record, Honorable Kosgei. I think let's just leave it there. Safe to say, to agree with you that yes, indeed, your understanding of what the August House means is correct. And it's only fair that we treat each other with the utmost respect and decorum. I think that's an important point. But it cuts both ways. So, have the patience to allow others to say what they have to, so that then when your chance comes, you also listen to. But I think now that should suffice. Otherwise, the Honorable Kosgei was extremely agitated when he came to see me yesterday. And I thought if I didn't allow him to do what he has done, he was going to burst today. I'm sure you can see he has now relaxed. So, and I think that's what is to be encouraged. The next is by statement by the Honorable Kosing. You're making a statement.
I think I'm responding, Honorable Speaker.
Is it the one on Len and Yegon?
Luna Park.
There?
Yes, Luna Park, Honorable Yegon.
Yegon, eh?
Yes.
You already gave. Have you already given? Or you're giving now?
Yes.
Very well.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to give this statement from my colleague. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to provisions of Order 44C, Honorable Leonard Brighton Yegon requested for a statement from Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing regarding the above matter, Honorable Speaker, which is demolition of Luna Park, Nairobi. I'm going this road, Honorable Speaker, because this is a statement of its own. Honorable Speaker, the committee resolved to write to the Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Transport, Infrastructure and Housing, Urban Development and Public Works, via our letter dated that, Honorable Speaker, on 2nd September 2020, to submit their written response to the matter raised in the statement. Honorable Speaker, in their response via letter as indicated here, Honorable Speaker, dated 29 September 2020, the Chief Administrative Secretary indicated that the ministry nor any of its agencies were involved in the demolition of Luna Park on 15 September 2020. Honorable Speaker, we thought that might not help the honorable member. So what we did was, on 6th October 2020, the committee wrote to Major General Mohammed Abdallah Badi, Director General of Nairobi Metropolitan Services, via our letter, Honorable Speaker indicated here, requesting for response to the issue raised on the statement. And the Honorable Speaker, indeed, he responded, and this is his statement, Honorable Speaker, to Honorable Brighton Yegon. And he says, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Leonard Brighton Yegon, Member of Parliament of Konoin constituency, sought a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing on the following. Roman 1, explanation on the criteria used during compulsory acquisition and eviction of the people on developed land or where businesses premises exist. Roman 2, what steps were followed during the eviction and demolition of the people's properties in Luna Park and other surrounding business premises, and whether valuation of properties were carried out before the eviction and demolition. Roman 3, Honorable Speaker, what measures have been put in place to ensure that persons affected during the eviction and demolition in Luna Park are compensated, and when? Honorable Speaker, these are the responses from Badi. The government has plans to decongest traffic in Nairobi, improve travel time and flow of vehicles. As part of implementing this program, Honorable Speaker, public service vehicles are being relocated from the current operational areas. One of the places identified to accommodate them is the Green Park terminus, which is Luna Park, Honorable Speaker. The criteria, coming out the criteria, he says that the criteria used was to relocate vehicles dealers, while other establishments such as restaurants and Luna Park were left intact. Were left, Honorable Speaker, intact is that they were located at the site identified for the bus park. Most business remained intact. Only car dealers were relocated. The land in question, Honorable Speaker, in accordance with this response, belongs to Kenya. Kenya purchased it from Kenya Railway Staff Retirement Benefit Scheme. Traders, Honorable Speaker, were given notices to vacate, which they did. Honorable Speaker, the statement continues to say steps followed were as follows for Honorable Brighton Yeko. Number 1, notices were issued. Number 2, business people were asked to move their properties, which they did. Honorable Speaker, the NMS took possession of the site and they began construction. Finally, Honorable Speaker, the government has not set aside resources for compensation as no property were destroyed. I thank you, Honorable Speaker. And this is the statement.
Honorable Yegon, Brighton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The answer or the response is not satisfactory, Mr. Speaker. It is actually vague. We are not opposed to decongesting traffic in Nairobi or improvement of travel time and flow of vehicles. But my question was, the steps that were followed during the eviction of tenants that were who already leased that particular place in Luna Park was not properly, there was no proper procedures followed. It is evident from answer number 2 that no valuation of properties was done. And when you look at the answer number 3, where they are talking about the government had not set aside resources for compensation as no property was destroyed, that answer is actually fake, Mr. Speaker. Property worth millions of shillings were destroyed in the morning of 16th of September 2020. There were more than 1,000 beneficiaries from those who are doing business at Luna Park. And when you look at the people who had occupied the Luna Park, they had leased for a period of 9 years, but they were not compensated back their money, and they were only given 8 hours to vacate. And the 8 hours that they were given was at 5 in the evening. And they had, the people who had leased had to take away their vehicles in the evening. Most of the businesses there were car businesses. So there was 9-year leases running, and those people need to be compensated for the 9-year lease. And also there were investments in terms of security, in terms of capital, in terms of fences, among other properties that the people who had leased had actually put in place. So I'm not satisfied with the answer, Mr. Speaker, and I feel the people who had leased the place need to get proper compensation from the investment that they put in place in the Luna Park area.
Very well. This is a statement, and he has read what he has. It's your feeling that the answer is not satisfactory. Then I think the rest should be left to the Almighty, isn't it? Because I keep saying this system is not good. Because now, what do you expect the Honorable Kosing to do? He has read the statement which was given to him. You are not satisfied at all, and for reasons that you have explained, Honorable Brighton. Yeah, but even if I told Honorable Kosing now, do you want to go and get another one? He will get another one, which again may not be satisfactory, and then tell him to get a third one, not satisfactory, a fourth, a fifth. But if it was a question directed at the relevant cabinet secretary, he would be the one to give that answer, and then Honorable Brighton Yegon would have the opportunity now to pin him down. So now, even if I allow you to pin down the Honorable Kosing, surely he will be suffering for the wrong reasons. So I would suggest, Honorable Yegon, that perhaps you need to reduce that into a question so that the cabinet secretary responsible can appear before the committee, and then you can, take him on. The next is a statement by the Honorable Kisang. The Honorable Kisang was to issue a statement in response to a request by the Honorable Osoti. Honorable Kisang is not in the chamber. Honorable Osoti has also taken leave of absence. So I think then they can sort out the matter wherever they are both, isn't it? Since both are not in the chamber, they can resolve that matter out there or in the village if they meet there. Then Honorable Florence Mutua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, kindly allow me to hand over the statement to Honorable Munjiri. I have some urgent meetings.
Yes, I walked in good time, isn't it? Honorable Munjiri, you are the one to respond. Press intervention. Very well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I am giving an answer to the question by Honorable Aramat, if I am not mistaken. And background information, Teacher Service Commission established under Article 237 of the Constitution as a constitutional commission with its primary functions being to register trained teachers, recruit and employ registered teachers, assign teachers for service in any public school or institution, promote and transfer teachers, exercise disciplinary control over teachers, terminate the employment of teachers engaged in public service. The Commission is further mandated under Article 237(3) of the Constitution to review the standards of education and training of persons entering the teaching service, review the national demand for and the supply of teachers, and advise the national government on matters relating to the teaching profession.
Honorable Gujiri, you can even move straight to
The question itself.
Yeah, paragraph 1.7.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Well
Those are
guided.
statutory things, and members are expected to know that even when they may not.
Well guided, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
So I'll start from 1.7. TSC and Salaries and Remuneration Commission, SRC, undertook job evaluation exercise for the teaching service in November 2015-2016. The job evaluation recommended the substantive appointment of institutional administrators and placing them in institutions commensurate with their grades. Positions of institutional administrators are now substantive appointments informed by the individual grade of each teacher. 1.9. Mr. Kudate was assigned to act as a head teacher in Korienito Primary School on 9th July 2018. Later, the commission transferred a substantive head teacher to the school as the head teacher. When the new head teacher reported, Mr. Kudate requested to be transferred out of the school to another station. His request was accepted and he was subsequently transferred to Entaport Primary School on 21st October 2020. Annexed here too and marked as Annexure 1 is the following bundle of documents. A letter appointed Mr. Kudate as the acting head teacher in Korienito Primary School, letter transferring Mr. Mereu to in Korienito Primary School as substantive head teacher from Ntulele Primary School, Mr. Kudate's request transfer from Inkorienito Primary School, and a letter transferring Mr. Kudate from Inkorienito Primary School to Entaport Primary School as deputy head teacher. Contrary to the allegations, Mr. Olemereu, the new head teacher who had been a head teacher in Ntulele Primary School since 2011, is not a non-performer. He was transferred to the school since he had served for 9 years in his previous station. Am I to go on to question number 2?
Yes.
Question number 2 is on whether TSC could provide details of the performance of the said teacher with regard to the school. The performance of Mr. Olemereu for a period of 3 years is as per the table below. In the year 2017, school mean score was 237.13, 2018, 279.14, 2019, 301.55. The next question is why Mr. Kudate has been serving in an acting capacity despite his stellar performance that has improved the school's education standards. The answer, promotion of teachers in public service is done competitively with the objective to attract competent skills so as to achieve quality education. The promotion of teachers is based on career progression guidelines to manage the career growth of teachers in service. The guidelines outline the skills and competencies necessary for advancement in the profession. The guidelines further provide for minimum requirements for selection, appointment, and promotion of teachers at different grades. Mr. Kudate is currently a head teacher 1 at grade C4. He has served in that grade for more than 3 years and therefore qualifies to apply for promotion to the position of head teacher 2 at grade C5 when vacancies are advertised. Unfortunately, our records confirm that the teacher did not apply for the post of a head teacher when the commission advertised for the positions in mid-2019 and December 2019. Final question, within what timelines shall the TSC provoke the proposed transfer so as to safeguard the increasing education standards at the Inkorienito Primary School, mixed day and boarding school and neighboring areas of Narok County? The commission has no intention of revoking the transfer of Mr. Kudate since he initiated the transfer to his current station. Mr. Kudate should be advised to apply for position of head teacher when commission next advertises vacancies in that grade. In conclusion, on behalf of the Teacher Service Commission, I wish to thank this committee for its continued support. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Is Honorable Aramat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's so unfortunate, Speaker, that just some minutes ago, you said we cannot sacrifice our colleagues because it's a question. Speaker, if you look at the performance of the teacher, and I wish Florence was here because we have discussed with Florence at length, the table that shows the performance of Mr. Olemereu, I have a schedule for Narok East, a whole schedule of the 78 schools in Narok East. And what is there at that schedule is what they have given is Kudate's performance. It's not Mereu's performance. Mereu have never attained below. He has served in Ntulele from 202, and in 202 he got 219.2, all the way to 219, he had 264.2242 in 2019. So I think TSC has lied there. And secondly, I beg to differ with that Kudate actually initiated the transfer. In Narok East, all teachers along the roads are given preferences where teachers, if you are good with TSC in Narok, you are transferred to a school that is next to the road. So Kudate was sacrificed, and when the parents demonstrated for 3 days, that's when we walked with Sankok to the headquarters of Narok, and we went with Kenta Soipan to the headquarters, and we didn't get an answer. And that's why we wanted to get clarity why the teacher was transferred, yet he was a performer in the school. Thirdly, which is lastly, when they said that he has never applied for promotion, and I differ to differ, though you are not the TSC people, as the speaker said. Mr. Kudate applied for promotion, which has never been effected. I have the papers here that shows he has actually requested for promotion. It has never been effected. Speaker, I would only request if I could come as you directed earlier, that we could actually further this question to TSC Secretary, Madam Asharia, so that we could shed more light to this question, because this is a school that we have pumped 60 million to Nkoriento boarding school.
And told the Kenyans that they'll build stadiums, modern stadiums all over. It's close to 8 to 9 years, and based on what the committee's report has said, it was all possible lies, and it was a mirage, and it had nothing of substance. It's always so disappointing, Honorable Speaker, that the whole government can lie to its people and shamelessly walk around and do nothing about it. I hope some of the partners in those lies will not come and tell us the same lies in 2022. Honorable Speaker, the issue of incomplete projects, the issue of poorly planned projects, the issue of criminal procurement process is a matter that we Kenyans must rise up and demand for answers. Reading through this report is a litany of generally poor procurement processes, is a litany, or is just a listing of what could go wrong, all went wrong, or was it specifically designed to fail? Honorable Speaker, it's inconceivable that the Sports Kenya could have ignored Public Works, State Department of Public Works, with the expertise they have, with the knowledge they have, to proceed and execute such a big project of about 4.4 billion on their own, knowing very well they had no capacity, they had no knowledge, they had no technical knowledge. It is obvious that all this was designed to swindle public money to enrich a few people. And I think the committee has not been very authoritative enough. I would have expected them to cite the members who are involved, the public servants who are involved, and really call them to be unfit to hold public office. I do not know why they were so cagey. They don't know why they were so afraid to say it as it is. Honorable Speaker, I hope this House will take its position, and I know at one time or another we must lay the dragon of corruption in this country. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, we'll never go anywhere. And that's why we keep on saying corruption should be delinked from politics. When we fight corruption, we need to deal with it decisively. And that's why I like the recommendation in the BBI report that says before the next tranche of any disbursement is made for any project, the Auditor General must ascertain that the actual work, what amount has been, or that was disbursed earlier, has been done, Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, we'll never fight corruption. And I want to urge the committee to be firm enough, literally make specific recommendation so that this House, when they are voting on this report, they are voting on a report that indeed has got substance and will punish those who conspired and stole Kenyan money. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support the report, and I hope we'll discuss with the committee and see what can be done to make the report a bit more actionable and a punchy report. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Jeremiah Kioni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that opportunity. I want to join my colleague in supporting this report, and without doubt, it's a report that has not gone to what is expected of a parliamentary report, if you ask me. We should have a report that causes others to act, but a report that we merely become a talking house and eventually we want questions put doesn't quite augur well with what is expected of this House. I want to agree with Mheshimiwa Udwar, the member for my colleague from the RADSmen department, or the RAD issues, or RAD profession, that it would have been better to cite the officials in the report so that one feels the pain of having been cited in a report. I believe without doubt that they are also supporters of BBI like myself, because they have gone with the recommendation that is crucial in BBI, that the ministry should not be allowed to fund other projects until they have finished in the funding of this study. But Mr. Speaker, this is yet one of the other, I think another project or another team that feeds in these criminal networks that conceive projects in this country, not for purposes of helping the now eventual what they call the hustler nation, but for purposes of looking for opportunities where they can siphon money. Mr. Speaker, we have a similar case with the leather industry, where equipment was bought in this country, is lying at Kalioko, the other one is lying at Thika, and we have grown our import on the leather industry from a mere 5 billion shillings some times back to now over 39 billion shillings. Yet the people who are importing the leather into the country, instead of using the digital precision cutting machines that have been imported in the country to create the employment that would come to, add up to even millions of opportunities for our young people, they end up looking for opportunities to siphon money. And unless we address this issue, and then you feed on the same issue by turning the desperation of Kenyans into a political platform, that's what we are good at doing. And yet we had the opportunity of helping them when we had this opportunity. And Mr. Speaker, this is one of the things that would have, if these stadiums had been finished, and I believe that money has been siphoned. If you hear that in the books they are saying that 80% of the funds have been disbursed, and when you go to the ground you are seeing 49% of the work done, certainly there will be, at the end of it all, there will be loss of money. The call on the Auditor General's office to come and carry on the project, carry on from where you stopped, another good call from the committee. But again, 2 days ago or last week, we had a member of Dagoretti saying that the former Auditor General is also being frustrated when he is out of office. And I think that again addresses, it feeds into this corruption criminal networks. In this way, Mr. Speaker, if the current auditor becomes hesitant in carrying out what this committee has recommended on the account that the former one is not perhaps getting his dues, again, we perpetuate corruption. There is a network that I do not know exactly how we eventually do it, because it's also very difficult, given what we have seen since the year 2002, to delink politics from corruption. I think politicians, in politics, actually help in perpetuating corruption, because it's political leaders who help in the scheming of some of these things. Mr. Speaker, I have mentioned we have the vegetable oil, and I can tell you the vegetable oil also, another industry that can create very many jobs in this country. But we continue importing vegetable oil in this country. Now, last year, to the tune of 78 billion. The other year, 58 billion. But if we just encouraged our own people to plant the base that is used for vegetable oil, we will create over 2 million jobs. So, Mr. Speaker, all these things feed into the corruption networks in this country, and I believe it is what the BBI is, one of the things that BBI is trying to sort out by causing the public servants not to be allowed to implement any other project before they complete what they had already started. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Odhiambo Akoth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, and I want to thank the committee for bringing this report that gives and highlights what is going on with the stadia in Kenya and the project that was actually was promised by the Jubilee government. Mr. Speaker, sport is a source of employment, entertainment, and also contributes to health and well-being. Mr. Speaker, the only thing I regret is that the member, when he was actually moving the motion, only mentioned certain sports but did not mention water sports. Because in our area, water sports like canoe regatta is very popular, and also the ajua. So even though we are not looking at them, they are not played in the stadia, but when we are talking about the sport, it would be good to acknowledge such sport. And I would also want to encourage the committee that one of the things that they should be doing is, other than looking at the stadia, also look at the challenges, the natural man-made challenges that we face for those of us that have the water sports, where you do not need anything built, but we are now being harassed by hippopotamus. Like today in the morning, one of my constituents was killed in an area called Usau, and last week in the same area, another hippo killed someone while they are exercising their right to undertake the sports. I'll be raising it with the relevant committee. But I just wanted to note that even when you are thinking of sports, let us be broad and think outside the regular sport that we know of. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, I just want to say that it is regrettable that this very good initiative is also being subject to the usual corruption that has now become a second name of this country. And I would want to encourage the authorities to take very stern action. And instead, what I've seen that is emerging in this country, instead of going for the real culprits, we start playing politics with the issue of corruption, especially when it gets nearer to election. And that is actually what has stopped us from dealing with the actual thieves. That you will start seeing very soon as we are dealing with issues of corruption. You'll start hearing CDF here, CDF there, because the opponents will be fighting the issues that, that will be of focus. Is actually elections as opposed to dealing with this. But it is very regrettable that if you are talking about 4 billion and only a few stadia that were supposed to build and the state that we have been told that they are in now, I only wish that this 4 billion was divided between 290 constituencies, especially given that sports is now devolved, and because the national government wanted to set a standard, it would have made a lot of sense if this was divided into 290 constituency, a standard setting, because the national government also needs to understand that you can innovatively spread the risks. The same way you are putting the costs, you can spread the risks. Now, instead of talking about 8 or 12 stadia which are all stalled or only 2 are working, we could be talking with at least 200 constituencies would have done their model stadia with only 90 perhaps that would be having problems. And that is going by actually the way CDF is managed, Mr. Speaker. It's one of the funds that is very well managed, and you can see the results from what is done. And it is unfortunate, even though we knew that we wanted to empower our counties, that most, that sport, especially the building of study and all that, is actually devolved to counties. I want to encourage our county governments that because of the youth bulk that we are having now, and because of the youth that are idle from what we are seeing, the young girls and the young boys that are being found all over the estates in getting involved in very unhealthy activity. If we had actually sport over this period, or the study over this period that they are idle, that could actually divert their energies into something more productive. And I would want to encourage the committee that please follow this matter to the logical conclusion so that our money is not used by politicians to politic when our children are suffering. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I see my time is up. Thank you.
Honorable Akinyi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I too support the report. Mr. Speaker, from onset, let me say that the idea, it was a noble idea, but abused. Mr. Speaker, I sit in the park, and it is frustrating and depressing to see how money is wasted in some of these institutions. Mr. Speaker, billions of shillings were put aside for this study. But even from the report, you can see that none of them are even up to 50% completed. And this is across the country, that almost all projects, this is what government projects, that is the route that it takes. And it begs the question whether as a country we are serious about how resources are utilized, or it doesn't really matter. Mr. Speaker, when you say that somebody has already been paid money to the tune of 113, and people have even certified that the work that has been done is actually more than what has been done and that money has been paid, how do these people still continue walking around in this country and getting more money to continue wasting? It's like flushing it down the toilet. Mr. Speaker, even as we recommend or propose audit of the assets and the status, I think as a House, as a 12th Parliament, there's something that we can do. That when they come in for the budget processing, we need to also put them to task on what they did with the previous monies that they were given. And if you can't account for it, then nothing will be given. Yet I've also seen, I've been here for 3 years, I've seen that we continue to give them money despite the fact that what they set out, some of them, not all of them, have not done anything on what they had been given. And the process of auditing them now takes another several years until people also forget what happened. As now we are talking about 2018 and we are in 2020 and we are lamenting at the end. I too want to agree with my colleagues that stern action needs to be taken against the culprits. Not just taken by word, but we want to see them answering for some of these things that have been done. Mr. Speaker, I also want to see no money allocated to those ministries before they account for the monies that was wasted. Mr. Speaker, it's about time we started walking the talk and not just talking here and no action is taken. Once again, I also support. Thank you very much.
Shall we have Mwambire Gubao, member for Ganze?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for according me an opportunity to express my support to the report. Mr. Speaker, it is quite alarming if Kenyans today are now getting other facts rather than what we had during the campaigns, because we were told in a month's time that stadium will be complete. In a 3 weeks' time, that stadium will be complete. In 3 weeks' time, another stadium will be complete. Mr. Speaker, those were the songs which we had then, and we believed it was true. It is unfortunate that we have now come to learn the reality, and it is also unfortunate that the committee has not recommended some of the companies and even officers involved in upfront payment to the contractors. Mr. Speaker, I think it's high time that we get more serious so that such people should be taken to court. We have not even heard from the committee. The committee could have come clearly on the stadiums whereby both the county government and national government are like partnering. We need to know whether there is a proper agreement on how they are going to be partnering, because we cannot just double allocate money to a project without proper modalities, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we need to get valued for our money. It is high time now that we be serious, we go deeper into these issues and investigate so that at least we can fish out all those who are prone to make unnecessary deals to the government. Mr. Speaker, it is high time also we come clearly, the ministry come clearly on where these stadiums are going to be built in future, because we have been seeing them being concentrated in certain regions where they think maybe it can be easier for them to siphon funds. We want to make sure that they are distributed equally in the country and they be implemented. Mr. Speaker, for now that we have realized that public funds were misused, were misappropriated, and we have a big number of white elephant projects across the country, I think it's now good to recommend all those who are involved to be taken care of by the law. We should not just leave people like as if we'll always be lenient. The recommendation that we have in the BBI is quite okay, but also what we have in the different statutes in this country can take care of all those who are involved in these fish deals, Mr. Speaker. So it's my humble request that all members will support the report so that at least we can move forward in seeing the projects implemented and those who are involved in fish deals are also taken good care of. For those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support.
Should you have Honorable Zambia?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to give support to this document. I think I congratulate the committee for coming out with the real issues which are happening on the ground. Doing fact-finding was the best thing for the committee so that we can get to know where we are. I think it is very unfortunate that all the mega projects we have in this country, they are scandals. Citing very clear that most of the projects, and in this regard, I refer to Makueni Count Stadium, where one of my colleagues comes from, Honorable Manzo. That study has taken more than 2 years, and the work which has been done cannot be equated to the money which has been paid. So I think there is something which is amiss in this connection. And I wonder...
Order, Honorable Nzabia. What is it, Honorable Jeremiah? Kioni. Just be on record.
I was just wondering whether it is in order for the honorable member, a good friend of mine, to speak without the mask. I know it's uncomfortable, but we are living in very dangerous time, and especially at his age.
Thank you, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, for raising that. He is out of order. Honorable Nzabia, it is very uncomfortable to speak with a mask, but look, we are in these times now. We have to live with this reality. For the sake of Honorable Makau, who is seated next to you, and for the sake of yourself and others, please have the mic, have the mask.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think in any engineering works, which includes the construction of these stadiums, I think if there is any payment to be raised, a certificate has to be done by the public works officer. So there is a link of those who are paying and those who are raising the certificates. Meanwhile, it is very important for this committee to make a follow-up, to do what is required to bring back the monies, or for the contractors to finish the works which they are supposed to have done. Lastly, I think, as my colleagues have said, I would wish the BBI to take into consideration the corruption issues so that even leave alone the studies, there are so many other projects, even including water projects, which have been a scandal in this country. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I support the committee for fact-finding. Thank you.
Honorable Mohammed Sheikh.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you so much. I do stand to support this report by the Committee of Sports, and I do stand to support that this report has really outlined the challenges and the issues that are faced by Kenyan contractors as well as by the Kenyan public, by the Kenyan public. The Kenyan public expect that the taxpayers' money is expended and utilized accordingly. The Kenyan taxpayers require that all monies that are assigned for particular projects should be utilized and complete projects accordingly and within the timelines that are required to. Kenya has got nearly 71% youth, and you can imagine that that is a huge number. And you can expect that that is people under the age of 35, that's what I want to say. And that is a huge number. That is the future of Kenya. Sports is a very important activity that really, is a global activity. It is an activity that brings people together. It is something that is required by all humanity in the sense that it is something that can even bring peace, cohesion. I used to work with, on humanitarian aspects, what we call Football United. And that was when I was doing my PhD in Australia. And what really we used to do in the Football United is to support countries that are, below, in terms of social activities. And what we also used to do is that we used to use football as something that unites the young people so that they can be able to understand beyond conflicts, beyond retributions, beyond issues that will be over challenged within the society. So it was more of a cohesive activity. In Kenya, what we expect is that the amount of money that has been expended in terms of youth and in terms of social activities, particularly sports, is something that is really required to be seen as an essential investment for the future. And the future is with the youth. One of my sons, Yahya, is a good football player. He is a midfielder in one of the younger groups in Kenya. And he was a good player in Australia when he was at the under 15. And he keeps telling me that wherever we go in Kenya, the sports grounds, the places to play are not good enough. They are not good enough for us. These are not facilities that can be able to sustain what young people require and need. Now, if Kenya government is investing in these facilities, then it means that our investment to the young people has really been, affected. But one thing I really want to mention is that while this report has discussed the critical, intrinsic challenges, it is also important to look at the extrinsic factors. The extrinsic factors is about the failure of the government not paying the people who are doing the contractors on time and within the period of time that they complete a particular job. That is also another extrinsic factor. But the intrinsic factor definitely stands within the system that really requires to oversight and overlook these particular projects that are important. I want to also add on to thing that Wajir South have got about 61% youth. Unfortunately, there is no one single stadium. And it is second largest constituency in the country, equivalent to Central Province, Nairobi Province, and Western Province combined. That is 23,000 almost square kilometers. 23,000 square kilometers, that is. And that is about 64 constituencies. And therefore, a single stadium for young men is not there. I urge that the government also looks into that. But however, I do support this report, and I commend the committee for their findings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity again to contribute on this motion. Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that I'm a member of Sports, Culture and Tourism Committee, and also I participated in Yala Games and won 12 gold medals for this parliament, Mr. Speaker. I'm just proudly saying that. Mr. Speaker, I was part of the members who actually extensively inspected the status of the stadia in our country. We started with Nyayo, we went to Riringo, we went to Karutu, We went to other places like Kamarin, Kipchonge, Keino, and Mr. Speaker, the report was so untimely. The report was really bad. The findings were actually can drive me into crying motion. But anyway, Mr. Speaker, let me not weep at this moment. The status of our stadium. Mr. Speaker, one of the key issues we really wanted to investigate as a committee was the allocation of this stadium into several regions. If you look at the names I've mentioned here, Mr. Speaker, majority of these stadia, they were just built in Eastern, Rift Valley, and Central, leaving out the other regions like Coast, Western, Nyanza, and mention them all, Mr. Speaker, even Northeastern. Mr. Speaker, if at all we have got objectivity of promoting the sports and youth talents, we have to be fair. We have to follow what the president guided us in terms of building the stadia in different regions. And Mr. Speaker, let me confess I am totally disappointed in the manner in which these stadiums were distributed. We cannot have 3 stadia in Eastern Province, 3 in Rift Valley, then the rest of the places where we are getting talents like football, like Western, there is no single stadia that was allocated to Mr. Speaker. I am passionately talking that, bearing in mind I come from Eastern Province, but Mr. Speaker, this is very bad. Corruption must be condemned, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to resource allocation in this country. Mr. Speaker, we also determined the amount of work that has been done. Shockingly, I went to Marsabit and also Water Stadium, which we have really paid a lot of money. Mr. Speaker, the situation is so bad, the situation is pathetic. We don't even know what amount 113 million was used to do Water and also Marsabit Stadium. Mr. Speaker, the issues of tendering. If you look at these companies, they don't even understand the meaning of stadia. I was brought up in Europe, and I've visited so many international games like Olympic Games, World Cup in Russia and other places, Arsenal Stadium, Man City. We are shamelessly building shoddy things and calling them stadia. We have got absolutely no stadia status in this country. Mr. Speaker, even when you look at Nyayo National Stadium, it has not met international standard. Kasarani, equally the same. And we are here talking of investing over 2.5 billion, which we cannot even show the value of this stadium. Mr. Speaker, what was the objective of building 7 stadia instead of actually doing one at a time?
Honorable Guna, Honorable Angwe is on a point of order.
Yes. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I like the way the Honorable Member is articulating his knowledge in the UK about the stadia position. However, I would want maybe to confirm from him. He has mentioned that there is a stadium called Arsenal Stadium. Honorable Speaker, as a fan of Arsenal, I'm not aware of any stadium in UK called Arsenal Stadium. May he clarify, Honorable Speaker?
Order, Honorable Angwe. You cannot bring football rivalry into the chamber. He is a member of, I think, Manchester or whatever it is. I do not know.
Mr. Speaker,
you can talk over tea.
Mr. Speaker, point of information. I accept the correction. It is called Emirates Stadium. Yes.
Honorable Angwe seems to know quite a bit of football more than you.
Mr. Speaker, I would also like to confirm to this House I'm an Arsenal fan. I was just getting emotional.
Gone. Your time is gone. Honorable Garane.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute to this important debate. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want to say that I'm a member of this committee, and I was among the teams that went around this country to see the status of the stadiums in this country. Mr. Speaker, it was a very, sorry state. The intention of constructing these stadiums were to nurture and develop talents, sport talents in the country. But Mr. Speaker, when you realize that the kind of work that has been done by the contractors, it is really a very, a bad state. Mr. Speaker, one of the things you realize that these contracts were awarded in January 2017. January 2017 was barely 6 months before the election. So you will wonder whether the real intention was to give value for money for these sports, stadiums. Because definitely there will be, we are in an electioneering period. There will be influence from, from the different political interests. And I think in future, one of the things that we really need to do is that contracts of this magnitude should not be allowed to proceed in an electioneering period. Mr. Speaker, because the contractors who were awarded these works, virtually all of them do not have capacity. Because how do you remain at a level of 5% to 10%, and you have been given mobilization money of about 100 million? Because before they started the work, all the contractors were given about 30 to 20% monies of the contract value to start, mobilizing their resources so that they can begin the work. But you see, because in one way or the other, proper due diligence were not done during the tendering process, we ended up getting contractors, briefcase contractors, who do not even, cannot even mobilize. Mr. Speaker, I think this is very sad. What is happening is that 3 years down the line, from 2017, those stadiums still remain at 20 or 30%, while the payments that we have made is about 50 to 60%, which means these people have misused taxpayers' money. And that's why, as a committee, we are, recommending, a special audit by the Auditor General, investigation by the DCI and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. And if there's, in any way, there's public money that has not been utilized properly, then we need to recover that money because we do not get value for our money. Mr. Speaker, I also want to echo the sentiments of Honorable CNN. Mr. Speaker, if you see the distribution of these stadiums, it is in specific regions. If the objective of constructing these stadiums were to, develop talents across the country, you will wonder why regions like northern Kenya has not even been given one single stadium. So, Mr. Speaker, I think going forward, when we are allocating resources, whether it is the sports, sector or any other sector, we need to be fair, we need to be, objective, and we need to make sure that every part of this country benefits from the resources, because every Kenyan, wherever they are in this country, are paying taxes. Mr. Speaker, finally, I want to strongly support the recommendations of the committee. Thank you very much.
Honorable Tuitoek, Kamuren.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute to this motion. I actually, upfront, like to say I rise to support the motion. This issue, Mr. Speaker, on sports, Kenya is known for sports, and especially athletics. I know we've not done very well in terms of soccer and others, but we are upcoming. But the unfortunate part of this issue is that we've been promised quality, high-level stadiums. But apparently, looking at the report from this committee, it's apparent that most of the stadia have actually only achieved 25 to 40% completion in spite of the lot of money being put, the amount of money ranges from 45 to 60%, the amount of money which already been advanced to these particular contractors. It is noted that the quality of this construction of stadiums is way below the standards. This also should be an indictment on the public works, which is supposed to assist during the supervision and assessment, and even submit or signing off on the certificates, completion certificates at various stages. It's unfortunate that these particular certificates were awarded if the level of quality of work was below standard. And as people are also saying that whenever these contractors are given money to mobilize, they actually divert this money to other contracts, to other activities. I think this is an area which the committee has pointed out strongly. Action should be taken, Mr. Speaker, because we can't keep on wasting public money, taxpayers' money, on things which are not helping us. As listening to the member, CNN, contributing and almost crying, it tells us that those who were able to visit this stadia really saw the level, the kind of quality and the amount of work done to be way below standard and even not commensurate to the money which is given. And a few stadia which have actually been outstanding, I've seen actually Pugungu Kakamega Stadium looks a bit better. The Nyayo Stadium was renovated. Kasarani doesn't look very good, although at least when they were doing some World Youth Athletics, they actually renovated the carpet on the track. But otherwise, most of the other facilities in this particular stadium, Mr. Speaker, are not up to standard. In this particular case, I'd like to say that action should be taken, either on the ministry. In fact, if the ministry cannot supervise this particular stadium, then we need to actually find another way, because we cannot continue pouring taxpayers' money on things which we cannot see the reality of it. If at this stage, almost none of those stadiums has been completed, none of the stadiums have been completed, then I also agree with members who said we can reduce. We should actually vote money enough for a project to be brought from start to completion. There's no point to start about 10 projects which cannot all be completed. So I think we should actually be reasonable here in this chamber when we are passing this motion or these budgets. We need to critically get the committees to advise us in the floor that we should actually approve a certain number of stadia, not all of them. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, nowadays we have the county governments. We also want them to start constructing their own stadia. We cannot wait to rely on the national government. Either we actually pass those, we actually give them a grant to those stadia, so that to those county governments, so that they start constructing this stadia. And we need to be actually talking about in every sub-county or in most of our constituencies, we need these stadiums to be constructed, because we have so many youth who want to participate in different types of sports. Some want to play football, basketball, volleyball, and all the others, including even track events. So we like to support this report, and I actually beg to support.
Honorable Joshua Kimiu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this report. Mr. Speaker, I want to say, as I support the report, I'm a disappointed man because, in fact, as a country, we are killing the spirit of our youth because of, when we are talking of this stadium in almost all the counties, we have a challenge. Mr. Speaker, I think it's important to consider our youth, because we know the majority of our Kenyans are youth, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, as my colleagues are saying, most of our promises we made, or the government made to the Kenyans, they did not fulfill. And Mr. Speaker, I want to give an example of our stadium in my county, Makueni Wote, whereby I think my constituency is just near the water. And that stadium was promised that it would be done. And as we are speaking now, Mr. Speaker, there is nothing you can show from that stadium. And I think if that stadium can be done, people, youths from my constituency can take the advantage of the stadium and train, because I think we cannot say that our people are not good in sports. It's only that because we don't have a good stadium where we can do trainings. Because, for example, my constituency, where I come from, Kaiti constituency, it's on a hilly. The topography is very difficult for the playing grounds. That's why if we can get just one good stadium, it can help our youth. They can be just meeting there. They do their practice when they are young, and when they grow, they can also become or do well in sports. So I think we cannot say that as a country we are not good in sports, because the problem is that we don't have the facilities, and it's a challenge to the government. What I can say again, Mr. Speaker, I can talk about corruption. I think as I said here last time, I said that in Kenya we are very good in making laws, but implementation is the problem. Because I think when you hear and you see the report, is that the tendering process is also a challenge. And I think we need also to streamline, as a government, we need to have a good and clear process of tendering. Because if a tender was done and it was not done properly, I think it should be cancelled and someone else take over from that contractor. If the contractor is not doing a good job, because you are just given because you gave something small to won the tender, I think those are the small things which are causing all these problems we are facing, Mr. Speaker. And I think as a lawmaker, it is very important now to make sure that as we give a solution to our people, we also try to make sure that we follow the law. Because I think if we include in the Kenyan Constitution the period of paying, like what I saw in the BBI, I think that it makes sense in the period of payment, because also some contractors are given job and they are taking centuries before they get their payments, which is also tiresome to the contractors. But I think, Mr. Speaker, for the youth of this country, they need to see something done on their stadium. And I think it's a high time whereby the county governments to take over and also do the stadiums. Because if each county, they can do like 1 or 2 stadiums, I think that can be a move to the country. Also, I think in the CNDF, we as members of parliament, I think we are doing well in the CNDF, because if you go to constituencies, there's something you can show. And I think even if we can change the constitution and include some funds to the CNDF, and we are given that mandate as members of parliament, I think we can do a good job. Because if you go on the ground, you can see well classroom done, some roads are done well through the CNDF, and you have something you can show. So I think if we include this in the CNDF, and all the constituencies to be given an opportunity, I think that can also improve and also can help to our youth. Finally, as I finish, Mr. Speaker, I want to say, let the country take the mantle and help the people, the youth of this country. I support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Cheruyot Jesile.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute to this report. And on the onset, I want to support, Mr. Speaker, that this committee was able to really go down there and bring factual reports from what they have seen. It is only unfortunate that this country, what we see in papers is not comparable with what you see physically or real time from the ground there. This committee must have spent a lot of time, and it was not very easy for them the way they are talking. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm also perturbed, and I'm wondering, when on earth in this country shall we ever be sincere and honest to ourselves? Because, Mr. Speaker, when people are doing things, they seem to be doing as if there's somewhere they want to go to. It is as if this planet Earth is no longer theirs and they are about to go to the Jupiter or any other planet. We are not even behaving like people who have given birth to children. People are smuggling as if they're embezzling funds, as if there's no life tomorrow. Sometimes it is shameful. And even when we are contributing on such matters, in such a house, and a house that the contributions that can be listened and heard by anybody in this world, it is very unfortunate that we stand as a house and be able to scrutinize reports and accuse profusely our own, and even paint ourselves so negatively, and it is intentional. Mr. Speaker, before I joined this house, I've been working in Eldoret for about 10 years. And Mr. Speaker, for a long time I've been, that Kipchoge Stadium was being prepared for construction. Before then, it was a land where farmers used to really put their maize to dry up. Then after some time, I saw some wall being put there. That's just one example. And up to today, nothing much has happened in that stadium. That is one among many. Even the Nyayo Stadium, which we are in here, we found when it was being under construction. And 3 years down the line, it was just until the intervention, I think, of the president of this country, that things happened. But more so, we want to really start by thinking, why do people all of a sudden think that if we want to eat money, we allocate it to stadia, such that it is easy to entrench it through the budget of this country, knowing very well that this one is not going to go anywhere? The intention is to siphon it at some point. So that, Mr. Speaker, like somebody has put it here, one member, that at the time of elections, you realize these contracts, or these contracts of stadia, increases in number. Meaning the intention is so clear that somebody somewhere is just waiting to siphon that fund. And that is why sometimes the youth of this country can be very rowdy on us. Currently, in Baringo County, for example, of course, us, we don't have a stadium. The former governor established one, wanted to do one. I don't know in the process what happened. Up to date, none has touched that ground. And youth are wondering, who is actually supposed to cater for them? And Mr. Speaker, that is why BBI has established a youth commission. We want to believe youth will be really taken serious, because this stadium most of the time is for the youth. When I established a tournament in Baringo for 2 consecutive years, Mr. Speaker, I saw the turnaround on the activities which youth ought to have done without that tournament. And at the moment, if you go to that county, even with this corona, they are all over playing. But then, nobody gives them that concentration such that they can be able to get in better field. Some fields are up and down, some are not there. Even they get injuries because of the environment. Mr. Speaker, it is only high time that we don't just make noises, but for those people who really have committed this crime to be taken to books, so that the tax of this country can really go to the right places. Thank you.
Honorable Ibrahim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me also join my colleagues to support this motion. Mr. Speaker, I think the committee has done the right thing. Indeed, it is the work of departmental committees to deal with day-to-day administrative issues of their departments and not wait for audit reports. Audit reports will, by the time we are dealing with audit reports, issues have already happened. However, correctional measures can only be done by a departmental committee if they will make site visits of this kind and really understand what is going on at the field level and compare the same with what heads of the department submit in the departmental committees. So let me take this opportunity to thank the departmental committee for really making such a big sacrifice of visiting so many sites. That, I have no doubt, has not been an easy task. That said, Mr. Speaker, I think in 2013, the government have promised to build 5 world-class stadiums
And I remember Garissa, Mombasa, Eldoret, Kisumu, and Nakuru were supposed to be the 5 world-class stadiums they were to build. However, towards the run-up to 2017 general elections, they have started refurbishing instead of building these world-class stadiums. I think that means the bleach has not been really served to the expectation of the electorates. That said, Mr. Speaker, it is important that we take note of the fact that all the ongoing projects in this country, if you look at the works done against amount paid by either government department or state corporation, it is very interesting. And the same has been raised by this committee. There is the tendency of paying contractors more than what they do. Indeed, this has been clearly seen in the report by this Departmental Committee of Sports as well. For example, they mentioned that Karatu Stadium, the works done is only 25%. However, the amount paid is more than 39%. That is very interesting. You wonder why these departments or state corporation will really wish to, rush so fast by paying the contractors more than the works done. And in a number of cases, we have seen contractors who have abandoned sites just because what they have is more than what they have done. This is very interesting. The same happens to Water Stadium. Water Stadium, according to the report by the committee, have only done works of around 25%. However, they were paid more than 38%. That is very interesting. Again, something very interesting is that those who are charged with the responsibility of doing monitoring and evaluation of these activities have the tendency of colluding with contractors by reporting more than the works done by the contractors. And that could be the case for Marsabit Stadium, although the report is not clear on the same. Colluding between government officers who are doing the monitoring and contractors such that they show that more works is done. I think this is a very interesting issue that we really need to look at it critically. Secondly, the government department that is charged with the responsibility of dealing with the oversight of, supervision of these works is the Department of Public Works. You will find that most of them engage private consultants. And in a number of cases from my audit committee, a number of cases where private investors have been engaged. And a good example is just the nearby NSSF building. They have the tendency of exaggerating figures. Value for money is totally absent. You wonder, there is a whole government department here called Public Works, which is supposed to be dealing with supervision of your works. You ignore them and start engaging private consultants. This is very interesting. That notwithstanding, the distribution of stadiums in this country, and even in the report, is totally unacceptable. And this is what we do in day-to-day issues in other sectors. Why should you have all the stadiums concentrated in one region while many other regions don't have the same?
Very well. Order, Honorable Ibrahim. What the issues you are raising are grave, but your space is gone. This is Honorable Wangwe's time now. But Honorable Ibrahim, what you have raised, you said it is interesting. It is actually very depressing. Maybe the word is the same, but no. All members are raising depressing issues based on the report. So if you add 1 minute, I will have to add Wangwe. Honorable Wangwe and Honorable Bunyas. Honorable Wangwe, please.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, although the chance is mine, but Honorable Ibrahim was delivering a very serious point, and at your time, as our Speaker, you'll consider maybe some time to come. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this report without a smile on the face, Honorable Speaker, because it's a report which really depicts the true nature of our country. It's telling us exactly what is happening in our society, and we have an opportunity, Honorable Speaker, to correct this kind of behavior, Honorable Speaker. Looking at the report, Honorable Speaker, it has tabulated quite a number of figures. And I just want maybe, Honorable Speaker, to look at the figures in terms of the amount allocated vis-a-vis the completion percentages, Honorable Speaker. I'm very much not very comfortable the manner in which, Honorable Speaker, the percentages of 20% over a period of 3 years and a contractor is not completing the stadium. Many of them are running at 20% to 40% and are now stagnating at 70%. That reminds us, Honorable Speaker, most of our projects are stalling, not because of anything else, but the loss of contract that we have, the manner in which we contract, Honorable Speaker, they tie up the government that exiting out of the contract becomes a problem. It's important and high time, Honorable Speaker, that this House looks at the laws of contract so that, Honorable Speaker, we easily create a law that supports the exit clause, provides for the exit clause in various contracts in a legal way, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, number two, or to my support of this report, Honorable Speaker, is the issue that distribution, the entire Western Belt, not just a region, Honorable Speaker, is left out in the allocation of the stadia. It only terminates in Eldoret. Looking at Nyanza, the old Nyanza, Honorable Speaker, the upper north of the rift, Honorable Speaker, the entire Western is left out. What did the county government of Kakamega do, Honorable Speaker? They had to invest money, which was meant to go for other programs, Honorable Speaker. This means, Honorable Speaker, that indeed what we are seeking for, that the BBI enables us to devolve more funds. If more funds get to Kakamega and we invest into stadia like the county government has done to build Buhungu Stadium, Honorable Speaker, it's now stadium number 3. If you look at what the county government of Kakamega did, vis-a-vis the amount that was spent for this program, for our national stadia, there is value for money in Kakamega compared to the national stadium, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, it calls on me to support that let us devolve more funds. Where we cannot spend it wisely at the national level, let's take it to the county, and the counties should be accountable to these resources, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I wish to thank the Sports Kenya, which have managed the Nyayo National Stadium, Honorable Speaker, to its very best standard. We want to appreciate their work and encourage them that FIFA requires a neighborhood of about 4 stadia, and let them now push to make sure that Nairobi becomes an international hub in terms of football. But, Honorable Speaker, my caution to Football Kenya, Sports Kenya is they must also invest in young talents. Let them have mini stadia with them. Let them not just look at the big stadia, which will be in favor of FIFA, because the talent, the users of this stadia are the youth. The users of this stadia are the young kids, Honorable Speaker, so that talent is nurtured from childhood to adulthood. Therefore, it's important that they have that plan, not just to invest huge sums of money for the big programs and leave alone the way they'll inherit the stadium, the programs, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, finally, I look at the future of stadia, not just to look at the talents of football and those people who run in terms of athletes, Honorable Speaker. My good friend, Honorable Ali, is from Wajir. They have a lot of sporting activities which is associated with their culture, Honorable Speaker. It's important we distribute this stadia the way the nature has provided for us, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, it's important we support the program and look at the budgets and also support the sporting activities in Kenya, and we will grow our country together. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I support.
Let's have Honorable John Bunyasi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I stayed this afternoon to be able to make some comments on this particular report because I thought it was critically important, given the fact that nearly 70 to 75%, perhaps more in some areas, of our population is youth. So that they're not on our side, they're the population, target population to worry about. And so I had very high hopes, but listening in, I find that the diagnostic part, the fact that the committee went out and went to all this study, that was a good thing. They have first-hand information. But in distilling out what the issues are, I have a feeling that the committee became probably overly generous, as it were. There ought to have been, in my view, which is part of the regular content of these kinds of reports, where you actually can identify what offenses were committed, what laws were contravened, and you can also indicate on that what the culpability is, which can be investigated further by forensic agencies, judicial forensic agencies. We can, of course, go back also to the Auditor General to ascertain the more exact degree of loss where that's needed, or the degree of deviance from the processes that are agreed, like in procurement, disbursement rules, or any of those other rules to help. But at the end of the day, this House now always depends crucially on the findings of the committee and the recommendations they make, so that we can be able to, while we're here, adopt the report with the confidence that those aspects that seem criminal, that are, let's say, forensic in nature, will actually be followed through if there is sufficient specificity for other agency to pick up and follow through. When that doesn't come through, if the degree of diplomacy in summarizing the findings is too high, there's a danger that it will be lost somewhere along the line, and therefore to just become a report. If you think about it, if 70–75% of our population is youth, I don't even agree with the recommendations of establishing a youth commission as a resolution. No, our entire budgeting system ought to reflect that. And if we get a commission that is a silo in a corner, it will have very little influence on this big monolith called the budget. 2/3 of our population is youth. At least 2/3 of our resources, as we allocate them, must target youth. We talk about youth employment, we talk about youth delinquency, we talk about youth sports, and all of these things. That's not how we operate. We have to look for it in a line item. We have to look for it in a corner. We can't solve this problem. It's like the issues we are discussing around gender without deviating. You can't get through simply by doing numbers. It ought to be an infused part of what we do. The youth are our population. They are not an aside. They are not a target. If you took out 75%, what do you remain with? Then there is another important point that they have brought out on the concentration of facilities. This is a weakness in this country's resource allocation systems, that there is a high degree of concentration. They have mentioned 2 or 3 regions, and yet they have left out many other regions where these issues are really, really relevant. It's true, and it's very marked in the health sector, but it's also true in the education sector in terms of higher institutions of higher learning. But now we see it in respect of stadia and sports facilities. 3, the stadia that is envisaged by how it was described was supposed to be, sort of high-class, world-class standards. That would be very good if we could achieve that. My friend CNN, Mheshimiwa Nguna, was here and was commenting on the fact that they are not meeting up to what they were hyped to be. But that's not the issue that I would like to concentrate on. In our country, I talk about Busia, but I think it's true of very many others. If anybody disagrees, they can come forth and say it. It's very difficult to find even playing grounds where the youth can then foment their talents. If we could just get a simple approach of land leveling, so they're able to play and play well. Finally, when they get to Nairobi, they'll play those national, international class stadia. I have a feeling that as it is now, I would really not support the report, but yet perhaps it's not even useful not to support the report at this stage. We are losing an opportunity to pinpoint these forensic areas they have been describing, so that there can be some follow-through. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Makari.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me also join my colleagues in supporting this report. And Honorable Speaker, I'm happy at least the chair has come back, because I was getting worried that very important points were being mentioned this floor of the House, and I was not seeing any member of the committee noting what the members are saying. Honorable Speaker, this report could not have come in a better time than today. Honorable Speaker, I'm sure you are aware, Parliament did approve a fund called Sports, Arts and Social Development Fund. Honorable Speaker, this fund is very well resourced. It has a lot of money because part of the money through gaming, this gambling and all that gaming, goes to that fund. And Honorable Speaker, those of us who sit in the Budget Committee, me and the Honorable Sakwa here, we have been pushing that we need an accountability framework for that fund. Because that is money which is not in the mainstream of the government accounts. It is a fund, and unless there's a very clear accountability framework, that money with what we see in this country can easily be misdirected or misapplied. So I want to urge the chair of this committee, even as they discuss the issue of Stadia, that Mr. Speaker, they don't lose track of that fund. That fund can assist this country achieve all what these honorable members are talking about, the issue of Stadia in different parts of this country. But looking at this report, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of getting value for money. And I think that's what the committee went out there to check. And anytime I look at some of the reports we have in this House, Honorable Speaker, I ask myself, is it that we don't have the right people to do the right costing of our programs and projects? Because, Honorable Speaker, I don't understand why a Stadia with the same capacity should be done in Kitui at 2 times the cost of the same Stadia, either in Nairobi or Kakamega. It means something must be wrong. And I've always imagined, Honorable Speaker, whether we could have some guided kind of a costing price for some of the projects, so that when it differs, it only differs based on the area, the locality. For example, if you are doing a project on a plain ground, it's not the same as when you are doing it on a slopy ground. So that the only cost difference would be caused by the nature of the area where you are doing the project. But, Honorable Speaker, at times you look at this cost, and really without even being told, you can see clearly that there's a problem in the costing. And then to make things worse, a contractor benefits from such a skewed costing and then takes even years to complete that project. So you ask yourself, even from first tranche of payment, Honorable Speaker, the contractor would be able to complete that project. But because there are so many vested interests, it takes so long. And the whole idea, Honorable Speaker, for taking that long is to be able to achieve what we call price variation. So that despite getting very high-costed projects, you also do price variation to make it even more expensive. Mr. Speaker, I've always given an example in this House, of a project which is in my constituency, where the government paid for machines lying idle there for about 3 years, $500 million. That project is called Ubanda. $500 million. And to make things worse, after paying the contractor $500 million, Honorable Speaker, not a single cent has been set aside to start works on that project you stored. So, Honorable Speaker, anytime I listen to this report, I ask myself, could it just be the normal talk? Have we become a talk show where we talk and nothing happens? And I think, Honorable Speaker, now we need to move as a House and stamp our authority, and more so oversight authority, so that those people who are in charge and who are making these mistakes, people who are committing these mistakes of misapplying resources, Honorable Speaker, would want them to see them being punished or refunding the money, or if not so, Mr. Speaker, being barred from getting more contracts from the government. In that case, then we will streamline the process, and Kenyans will start getting value for money. But anytime I read this report, Mr. Speaker, it just makes my heart feel bad, but looks like not much we can do as a House. I think it's time has come when we must now say, what do we need to do to streamline the process? And if we do that, Honorable Speaker, I think we'll be helping this country. With those remarks,
Honorable Mase Gakuya Wajiko.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the report, and I commend the committee for the good job into the inquiry of the status of the Stadia. I'll start by saying it's quite unfortunate that sports is still an extracurricular. So it's not taken seriously. When things go worse, to do with health or education, the whole country rise up and they defend those people who have not done, they don't defend those people who have not done the right thing. But unfortunately, we will talk today, but you find us locals, we don't support our local teams. We don't support our local people. You'll find people are happy to be associated with Liverpool, Man U, Arsenal. So we'll keep on complaining. And if you look at the local games, which are usually in Yao Stadium or Kasarani or elsewhere, very few Kenyans are in support of that. But in the evening, they are very fast to go and watch the international games or the leagues. They call them many words. I'll say, until we take sports seriously, it's high time we consider our youths, because sports help youths to maybe to nurture talent. It also helps them to use their time well. But this country, we have not focused on many things which are very relevant to the youth. Starting with sports, jobs. The only thing we are telling our youths to do is to become businessmen and women. And we ask them, what do you do? I don't have a job. So you can apply for money for you to start a business. So we are grooming all our children to become businessmen. So and the trend which has been there is a lot of corruption. So the generation to come will be full of business people. And you only have consumers, but not producers. And also as a country, until we become value-based and ethical-based and know what is right and correct, we'll become a house of complaining all the time. It's like we don't know our powers, or we don't know where we can go up to. And sometimes when you find a contractor misbehaving or not doing what he's supposed to do, you don't just blame that contractor. That contractor is doing that because maybe he or she has a godfather, and even if you back, even if you complain, nothing much will happen. That's why not much percentage of the work has been done. So it is quite unfortunate that in this century we are still complaining about sports, whereas other countries, they are doing very well as far as sports is concerned. Maybe many people think that those stadia, they help or they benefit the locals. I'll give an example, like the stadia we have within the city, where I come from, the Kasarani constituency, and the so-called Kasarani stadia. It is an international sports center. My locals don't use the stadia. So even as we still need the stadia to be brought within to our places, and we have enough land for that. And I would say we need to take this work seriously as far as sport is concerned. Because if we don't take our youth at an early age, if you go to North America, you'll find a child is determined whether he's a footballer. At the age of 3, they are able to tell this child will become a champion. But in this country, it is whether you feel, or maybe when you go to high school, or maybe in primary, or within your wherever locality, that's when maybe they tell you, you can do this and that. But let's take it as an activity which can benefit our youth, which can move our youth to greater levels. But until we do that, we'll continue complaining and nothing will happen. And for the local contractors, your time or your days are numbered. A time is coming when the youths will realize these people have been taking us for a ride, and it's our time, and time is up for us to be taken for a ride anymore.
Honorable Dual Adhiambo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for an opportunity to contribute to this report. Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I would like to say that I support the report. I am, Mr. Speaker, a member of the committee. And Mr. Speaker, as we look at this report, it is a reflection of the clear concern that in our committee we have had with efforts to ensure that sports and related activities are not only seen to be important, Mr. Speaker, but that the budget, the allocation, and the manner in which the resources are used is one that reflects that. As I support this report, Honourable Speaker, I would want to emphasize that as we look at the recommendations, indeed a key concern has been the manner in which, as we seek to implement and to ensure that we construct stadia, Honourable Speaker, we have had a challenge of what in many of our visits have been seen to be rogue contractors. Mr. Speaker, I know that during our last visit to Water Stadium, we witnessed firsthand the kind of challenges that exist when we have, Mr. Speaker, an opportunity where there are different government ministries that by their nature and technical expertise, such as the Ministry of Public Works, that would then complement the effort of work that is being done by the Ministry of Sports. But it was clear, Mr. Speaker, that there seemed, as a result of the kind of arrangements for work between ministries, and in a number of cases, Mr. Speaker, it appeared also to be just laxity in terms of how to address issues that we didn't have the kind of engagement that we would require. Mr. Speaker, it was clear, even as we went to this particular study, that if you're looking to see the progress, which progress we have sought to capture in the report, you would find that the common practice where indeed you are able to get architectural or structural drawings and an indication of percentages that could be matched by the very purpose of visiting the field, this did not seem to be to the level that we expect. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, as I support this report, I just seek to confirm to the honourable members, as I appreciate their observations, that indeed it is necessary that we are much more vigilant, and that indeed the key focus should be how to ensure that intentions and programs are translated into actual practice. And when we are dealing with stadia, when we are dealing with sports, when we are dealing with how it is that we would want to ensure that we get our youth and all those who are concerned to be actively engaged, I would say, Mr. Speaker, that it is important that not only do we complete the study, but that indeed we ensure that there are much more clear and transparent mechanisms of following and looking to see where the resources are. So, Mr. Speaker, as I support the report, I would want to also urge that the kinds of budgetary allocation that come to this committee would be one that would be commensurate with the sort of potential and indeed the kind of changes that sports can have in the quality of life of our citizens. With this, Mr. Speaker, I support and thank you.
Honorable Mose John.
Add my voice to this very important report. I want to state from the outset, Honorable Speaker, that I support, and indeed this is an extremely timely occasion for not only dealing with this report, Honorable Speaker, but to also ensure that we are moving a step further to implement the same. Honorable Speaker, I know we are in a country where sometimes we have very good reports, and they are very important to the country. But in a number of occasions, we will deliberately discuss about it, and it ends up there. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the youth of this country, we have a country that is endowed with youths who are extremely talented. youths who are vibrant, youths who have an opportunity to, showcase their talents. But if you go to the countryside, you would be shocked that many of the studies that are supposed to be made and therefore ensure that those youths are able to exploit their opportunities, they are in deplorable conditions. Honorable Speaker, I would speak, for example, a stadia called Manga Stadia in my constituency, Kitut Masaba. This is a stadia, Honorable Speaker, that was started about 3 years or even earlier. And what was simply done was the walling of that stadia. And that was all. In fact, many of the people who even come from around the community are even saying why was a lot of resources invested in this stadia. And yet, that is about all. If you go now to the actual works, Honorable Speaker, you will be shocked that year in, year out, resources are pumped and nothing is done. I think we need to rein on the rogue contractors or the people who are given an opportunity to do, a study like that, which would be able to give an opportunity to the community. I am not even saying, Honorable Speaker, that this should only apply to the youth. You will be shocked that in the lower areas, even the old people, men and women, disabled, have an opportunity to exploit their talent. But because these studies are incomplete, because the people who are given an opportunity to even work on them do not look at it as an opportunity to complete so that they are able to give the consumers that chance. So what do? They are looking at their pockets. They are looking at enriching themselves. Honorable Speaker, if we actually moved with speed and implemented and worked on the road contractors so that many of these studies are completed, we will be able to create not only the talents that we will get will tap, but also even employment, because you will find that there are so many people who are congregated or who attend to watch the various events that take place. And as a result, we would even have businesses, we would have market for many other commodities that are within the catchment area. You would also have that where we have studied, even the aspect of improvement of infrastructure, improvement of other social amenities will be on the increase. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it's about time that we raise to the occasion as a House, not only, just 1 minute, not only to have these reports and leave them there, but to also ensure that we follow them up. The implementation committee should be able to follow up and see that whatever we discuss as a House is not in vain. With those remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support.
Honorable Bowe Duati.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me a chance to also make my remarks. And from the onset, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that I support the report. And before I give my remarks, Honorable Speaker, I would like to congratulate you. We know you for being a champion in this parliament. When we went to Tanzania, was it Burundi? You are 800 meters champion and 4x400 meters champion. Honorable Speaker, you know how important stadiums are to some of us. I've heard members here saying that they are useful to young people. But Honorable Speaker, I also want to say that stadiums are also very useful to old people like us. For the young people, to keep them busy. For the old people like us, to remain healthy. So it is important. And Honorable Speaker, I want to say I was very shocked the other day when I went to Railway Golf Club and discovered that that facility, which I thought maybe Parliament would acquire, has been converted to be a matatu stage. It is an unfortunate, Speaker, because we have many members here, and they don't have even somewhere where they can walk around. Honorable Speaker, the gym we have in Parliament is very congested, very poorly aired, and in fact with COVID you cannot use it. Honorable Speaker, the report talks about how long those stadiums are taking to be constructed. But, Honorable Speaker, I want to say one of the major problems we have in this country is the lengthy procurement method of just procuring a small project. The other problem, Honorable Speaker, why projects are not finished on time is the lengthy payment method. Just to get a certificate honored by the ministry, just to have it certified by the technical team, it takes up 60 days. When it gets to account, it acquires legs to move from examination to variation, many other departments. And unless, Honorable Speaker, we change from doing our work manually and we change with the times, it will be very hard, very, very difficult, Honorable Speaker, to have work executed. The other problem, Honorable Speaker, is this issue of delayed payment. This has messed even local contractors. People keep on complaining about local contractors. It's not that they don't perform. They perform very well. And in the 80s and the 70s, most of the great jobs in this country were done by local people. Local contractors. The Karori construction of this country, Ongata Works, PT Ndegwa, and other prominent contractors. Nowadays, Honorable Speaker, when you see a minister somewhere launching a project, you'll see him with a Chinese contractor. When he's with an African contractor, is to abuse him and to demean him in front of media. How are we going to promote our people? And it is very shameful, Honorable Speaker. We come to this parliament, we vote billions, a lot of money, and that money does not benefit our people. Honorable Speaker, the other problem is this thing we are calling design, finance, and build. Where projects are designed in Chinese, priced in Chinese, awarded in Chinese, and we claim that we are helping our people, and we are importing Chinese to this country. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, the government is constructing polytechnics, TVETs, and our young people are refusing to join. Why would you join? And every time you are seeing a minister on television, near him is a Chinese contractor. How will our young people benefit? So if we want to change, we must, and we want, if we are going to do projects, we must involve our people. And government has to change. Government has to change. We have to change the way we are doing things in this country. Honorable Speaker, this country is now in debt. And if you look at the works which have caused that debt, all of them are going to China. There's none of those jobs have been done by our local people. None. Why would we be paying debts? We borrow from China, they come here to execute very expensive works, then they take twice the amount of money to China. It's very unfair. Honorable Speaker,
Sadly, Honorable Doti, your space is gone, but thanks for the compliment that the Speaker actually does a bit of running. I am aware that you also do quite a bit of running as well. I saw you running this morning, and you told me you did 10 kilometers. And that is to encourage Honorable Manzo to do the same.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well.
I will soon join the two of you so that we could keep fit. Mr. Speaker, I was the first sports secretary in this country in 2008.
Honorable Manzo, had you spoken on this?
No. I spoke on something else, on the railway.
I was actually under the impression that you had spoken on this. Please.
No, not yet. I kept on getting lost, and I was wondering why I was not on the line. Mr. Speaker, being the first sports secretary in this country in 2008 during the President Kibaki administration, we made a big effort, and we are the ones together in the Ministry of Youth and Sports then laid the structure of what the Ministry of Sports is implementing today, Mr. Speaker. And we sat in meetings those days and came up with the plan, which is there now. And when the devolution came, Mr. Speaker, sports was also devolved. And the few activities which are being undertaken by the national government are not able to be spread across the country for obvious reasons. But I want to agree that the initial plan was to have a major sports stadia in every province first, and then eventually, keep on going into the sport areas and keep on encouraging young people to participate in sports. Mr. Speaker, sports are a career by themselves, and a lot of people have made career out of it. Sports really promote this country. When we went to the Olympics in 2008, we were number 3 in the world, Mr. Speaker. We were only beaten by Russia and the US. Although we had, the fights after the 2007 elections, this really helped us to cover up our image abroad, and Kenyans did very well in that particular event. So it advertises tourism in the world, and a lot of people come here as tourism, and sports scholarships are usually awarded to Kenyans, to very many universities in the world, out of what we do with sports here. So, Mr. Speaker, we must really now improve the studies, and not only the major ones which are in this report, Mr. Speaker, but every county should really be tasked to do as many smaller studies, just flattening of the fields and making sure the talent is harnessed from the grassroots, because we have a lot of talent in this country and we can shine in the world. And I believe if we participated in all the field events and the major events in an Olympics, we could easily be number 1 in the world, and a lot of gold medals will come to this country, and that encourages the youth. They'll make a career out of it. We'll also do very well, Mr. Speaker, on football. You know what has been happening to the Kenyan football over the years. Part of it is the stadia where these particular people can train, and the funding and the general organization generally. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it's one of the things we should really work on, and from this report, we should look forward into improving. But I want to say that a lot of money has really been lost to corruption over a long time. And it's a high time, Mr. Speaker, we now, the country invests in making sure that corruption is fought. And not only just by say, but dealing away with the cartels and making sure that contracts are awarded regularly and to competent people, not political connections or friends, because that's what has been happening, and that's why some of these contractors, you cannot be able to move them even when you pay them so much in advance, and they are totally unable to move in a major construction like this. We all understand what COVID has done into sports in the country and into the finances, and the country is really, every country in the world is really struggling to make ends meet, and one of the areas which is going to struggle out of COVID and post-COVID is sports. But if we can now go on and develop and complete the stadiums which are there, and then work on the smaller ones, and tie it up with the national government and the devolved function, I believe we will improve the overall sports in the country. You can see even this year we are not going to the usual Eastern African sports where I prepare but I never participate for one reason or another. So I think we can do better, Mr. Speaker. I do support this report, and we look forward into improving the studies in the country. I thank you.
Yes, Honorable Manzo, I've actually confirmed you hadn't spoken to this, you had spoken to the earlier one. I think there was a mistaken impression. I shouldn't have taken that long to give you. Anyway, Honorable Tobiko Pesi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support the report of the committee. And Honorable Speaker, I cannot overemphasize the importance of sports in this country. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you know that sports has become one of the marketing tools of this country, Mr. Speaker, and that has placed Kenya as a country in the world map, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, stadiums, sports, and all related to the sports industry, Mr. Speaker, is what our government should emphasize and should nurture and build, Mr. Speaker, for today's generation and generations to come, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we came in the 11th Parliament, 2013, with the Jubilee government, Mr. Speaker, one of the main agendas of the Jubilee government was to establish several stadiums in the country, Mr. Speaker. And my hope is that our Honorable President will still pursue this as one of his legacies, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I say this, I would also want Kenyans to know, particularly in my county of Kajiado, that sports is devolved, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, and let me speak for Kajiado because I do not know the state of sports in other counties. But Mr. Speaker, I have seen a very embarrassing situation in my county where the Ngong Stadium, Mr. Speaker, has been left since, last parliamentary term, started 100 million put in and has never been completed to date. The current governor has turned it into a Matatu stage, Mr. Speaker. It's very unfortunate for the people of Kajiado County. Mr. Speaker, in my own constituency, the Kitengela field has been turned into a market. It's really unfortunate that governors are not taking sports as a serious affair that needs to be nurtured, Mr. Speaker, for the sake of our young people and also for the sake of many Kenyans who wants to keep fit, Mr. Speaker. And even going into the rural places, Mr. Speaker, we have young people who are very passionate on sports, Mr. Speaker, and they need their various fields in different places, in schools and in other small urban centers, Mr. Speaker, to be done and be made functional, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is really unfortunate to imagine what sort of resources go into our counties, but they do not seem to be used well, they are not being utilized, and our youth are crying loud, Mr. Speaker. I know, Mr. Speaker, the importance of sports, and I've tried to support sports in the little way that I can using CDF, Mr. Speaker, in my constituency. And I have seen the passion. And I have also seen the results, Mr. Speaker, because I have a number of young people in my constituency who have been picked up by international teams, Mr. Speaker. And Kenya is full of talent, Mr. Speaker. If only, this country, we really do control the corruption that is at the counties, Mr. Speaker. Because this is right now what has become the greatest nightmare, Mr. Speaker, in our country. That all the resources going to the counties, Mr. Speaker, are not being put into good use, Mr. Speaker. The other day, a honorable member from Kajiado said 1 year's allocation for the county is like a 20 years allocation for constituencies. CDF for 20 years is what will contribute to county's allocation for 1 year, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, we do see what CDF is doing, and we do not see what the counties are doing. I'm shocked, Mr. Speaker, particularly in my county, that nothing is going on to nurture talent. Nothing is going on to improve sports. Nothing is going on to improve the infrastructure, Mr. Speaker. It is unfortunate. But, Mr. Speaker, I just want to tell the people of Kajiado that come 2022, we must vote wisely, Mr. Speaker. We must vote wisely. And Mr. Speaker, I'm ready to offer myself for the people of Kajiado to get a different kind of leadership, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Tobiko, you got quite a bit of space of time there to say something else. But that aside, now there seems to be no further interest to speak to this. I guess Honorable Kibugushi didn't want to speak to this particularly. So let's have Honorable Macau, please, reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank you so much, and I thank members who've contributed to this report. Mr. Speaker, when you listen to members, it is quite obvious that value for money was not realized in the whole of this exercise of building this stadium. Mr. Speaker, sporting is a major income earner in this country. And Mr. Speaker, we should learn from the OPEC countries, where when you look at Dubai, despite them having oil or petroleum, they no longer use petroleum for their national income. Mr. Speaker, they have diversified to service industry. Mr. Speaker, Dubai receives more tourists than Africa combined. Mr. Speaker, that's a service industry. How, as Kenya, are we not to embrace such, and particularly sporting, where we have natural talents? Mr. Speaker, we had an opportunity as a country to build stadia, and I want to thank the President for setting aside a budget for 8 regional stadia and 4 Chan stadia. Mr. Speaker, because of mismanagement, notwithstanding the corruption that we have in this country, Mr. Speaker, we have seen, and in our report, you've seen, and I thank my members, that briefcase contractors were the order of the day, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you cannot give a contractor a contract of 300 million, and they cannot show their financial muscle. So, Mr. Speaker, and again, when a contractor is given what they are calling mobilization fee of almost up to 50%, I don't know what you're telling Kenyans, that we have paid upfront 50% of taxpayers' money. Mr. Speaker, that is grailing corruption. And Mr. Speaker, I think I listen to members, and they are saying we should go ahead and have the culpable persons or civil servants meet the punishment that is applicable. Mr. Speaker, I think the culture we are forming in this country is very negative for our youth, because today, if those stadiums were built, I imagine how many youths would be in those fields, playing, participating. And Mr. Speaker, even as members say, we have many sports. What we are looking at is those stadiums to be used as academies of all sports, be it even swimming, water games, archery. Mr. Speaker, I think we can attain a lot. So, Mr. Speaker, without much ado, I want to thank my committee, all those members who visited all those stadiums all over Kenya. And Mr. Speaker, say that, yes, this is our report, and I hope as Parliament, we will look into ways of implementing these reports. Because, Mr. Speaker, if we don't implement these reports, it will be a story like of yesterday. We need to go a step ahead and see how the implementation. And if there is loss of taxpayers' money, either to be recovered, Mr. Speaker, in the serious countries that are fighting corruption, you know, accounts are being frozen, and anybody found culpable, Mr. Speaker, they are blacklisted from any civil service employment. So, Mr. Speaker, I think we should have stern measures and serious punishment to lawbreakers. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I beg to reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Honourable members, we shall putting the question on that to another time. Now, honourable members, it is 4 minutes or 3 minutes to 7, so there is no need to get to the chairperson, Departmental Committee on Health, to move the next order. So for the convenience of the House, that is pushed ahead and the subsequent business slotted for today. Honourable members, the time being 3 minutes to 7 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Thursday, 26 November 2020 at 10 a.m.